Good evening. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of March 9th, 2026. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers on the meeting agenda. And tonight's meeting will be broadcast on the city's YouTube channel online. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Luke Manjaro-Massa.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Severs.
Here.
Councilmember Kondo.
Here.
Councilmember Roper.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Here.
Councilmember Leidy.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager Geyer, are there any responses to resident inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? No? Okay. Public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. City Clerk Small, is anyone signed up tonight?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there are 3 individuals who signed up in advance. The first person on the list is Tom Lampo.
Good evening. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
All right. Hello to Northglenn. I'm Tom Lampo, 3951 Jackson Way. We're living through some incredible times. I've stated before and I'll state it again. We're living through a spiritual battle that is manifesting itself into the natural. God has already won the battle, but our enemy is determined to cause as much harm as possible. In the end, we'll see that God is correcting what has gone wrong and bringing us to a better life. I'm here to lift up Northglenn to the Lord in prayer, so please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, we ask that you be the God of Northglenn. You are always welcome here. You are the Lord God Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. Nothing happens without you knowing of it first. We submit all things to you. Ephesians 1:21 through 22 states, "Now he's far above any ruler or authority or power or leader or anything else, not only in this world, but also in the world to come. God has put all things under the authority of Christ and has made him head over all things for the benefit of the church. You answer to no one. Your authority is above all. We are dependent on you." Father, we lift up to you all members of our military and their families. We are living through times we don't fully understand, and our military has been called upon. Our leaders have determined this to be the best course of action. Let our leaders be mindful of the lives they are commanding. Ecclesiastes 9:18 states, "Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one bungler destroys much good." And in James 1:5 it states, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask of God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." Let those making decisions be dependent on you. Let them seek wisdom from you in every decision they make. Keep our military personnel safe and grant them wisdom as they perform their duties. Father, we lift up to you the children of Northglenn. Your word states in Psalm 127:3, "Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him." Protect them as they go about their days. Let them be aware of their surroundings and avoid compromising situations. Guide them in their thoughts and actions, and make your presence known to them. Above all, let them know your word contains truths that will assist them in navigating this world. You are our God, and we are your people. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
The next person on the list is Melissa Ryan.
Welcome. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Yes, Melissa Ryan, Ward 3. I just came here to council to say there are 11 members of the House of Representatives that must vote yes to move forward Bill HB 26-1285, the MHTL facilities for residents. We need these representatives to move forward and support Northglenn with this bill. These representatives are Javier Mabry, I will slaughter these names probably, Michael Carter, Cecilia Espinoza, Lorena Garcia, Chad Clifford, Jennifer Bacon, Yara Sukai, Matt Soper, Ava Flannel, Rebecca Kelty, Scott Slaw. We need these representatives to move forward with the bill and send it to the vote on the House floor in order to try and keep registered sex offenders from living at the facilities that are nearby schools, daycares, senior centers, youth groups, and recreation centers. This is not just a Northglenn concern. Residents in Pueblo, Highlands Ranch, Colorado Springs, Westminster, and Lakewood will also be affected and should be paying attention. Please email the reps and ask them to protect kids, seniors, and the most vulnerable residents and safety. Please send emails and leave voicemails. Topics of concern you can mention: safety, common sense, school zone safety, initiative by the state, transparency, and trust or lack thereof by the state. This bill will be read Wednesday, March 18th, so time is of the essence. Any representative that votes to kill this bill, I want you to know I and many others will then know that you would have probably covered for Epstein. I'm disappointed that our local city council voted to hold a special town hall on this matter, that apparently has decided not to follow through with one. We're 9 days away with no date. Many residents may not even be aware of this matter because there wasn't even a letter sent out like last time. Your constituents cannot fight this alone. At the bare minimum, please send a cease and desist order to the state in regards to the MHTL facilities.
Thank you.
The third person on the list is Tim Long.
Welcome. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Good evening, Tim Long, Ward 4, 10661 Utrola Lane. And I'm here to give some compliments on the newsletter that came through, starting off with Josh Sievers, Ward 2. I'm very taken with the words you've shared, sir, when you described yourself. Hopefully you don't take this as some kind of anything but support. You talk about courage, you talk about the politicians and the system's respect, and sometimes they're not really valued, those of us that try to speak our truth. Bold and creative, maintaining a strong financial foundation. I couldn't agree more, and I hope that you get on the Finance Committee, sir. And you always put your priorities in investing in streets and the police, water, and energy, to name a couple other things. My second complimentary statement goes to the city manager, who wrote a very excellent description of the problem we're having with the state transitional facilities. This problem could not be defined better, the way that the city manager described it. And when you talk about 72 calls and counting for 2 years to the House 1 and House 2, these are very difficult times. And I'm just saying, I'm going to reiterate what Melissa just mentioned to you. You're going for a bill or 2 bills in front of the state, and here you are 2 years late getting a bill into the legislature. 2 years you've waited, since April of 24. And here you sit, and you're wringing your hands and hoping that all of us will show up at the State House and argue in support of this. My situation is this: you're not thinking outside of the box. And quite honestly, I'm a little taken aback by the city attorney who didn't think of this. Melissa just mentioned it. You have the right and the authority as a home rule city to file a cease and desist order. And if you just stand up and do something like this, you might come about and get their attention, instead of just, oh, we'll have to see what the vote's going to be, and here are the people that are going to be voting the wrong way. Cease and desist order. You can do your research on this. My next statement to tell you is I was at the demographics presentation last Monday night, and Northglenn has 37,829 people, and we're at a 10-year annual growth rate in the negative 0.1%. And curiously, in the handouts, I also noticed that the city does not have a formal banner policy. No formal banner policy? What happens in June when you fly all those things flying around here? So, and also compliments you on your new Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, won more 35 times to an organization that you will pay dues to as members in good standing. in Canada. But here's my bigger concern. I went to the mayor's coffee this last Saturday. 3 people, residents were there, along with 3 councilmen, and I do appreciate your attendance. But it came about that I was said that I have sour grapes. It was said of me that I was a liar. I didn't mind it being called a bully. But when you started talking about my retirement in my biography, of which I'm not retired, and I'm still working very hard, I think that's where I drew the line. I'm here to talk mostly about financial accountability. That's where I come from, and all of the things we're talking about. So instead of reciting everything that I've shared with you before about where and how you balance a $16 million loss in your budget by bringing in debt that's not really described properly, but you call it a break-even. And you'll challenge me, I'm sure. But here's what I'm going to share with you. In the November 2025 monthly financial packet on pages 12 and 16, at the top of the page, it depicts the city council spending per each of you. The budget is $20,200, roughly $7,000 for each of you. Unfortunately, as you look more carefully at this, the mayor spent $32,000 of the $20,200. You went over. And Councilmember Roper was very kind to give $2,000 to the mayor. But I ask you, how can you have a budget of $20,200 and spend $32,000? And when you look at where the money was spent, it went to Scudder Press for publishing cards and handouts. And what did that go for? Who were the recipients of those mailings? That's very curious to try to find out. When you see expenditures like this on a personalized basis for your operations as your budgets, this is supposed to be looked at and really requires, quite honestly, a vote of the taxpayers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak to council? You can press *6 to unmute at this time. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to council tonight that did not have a chance to sign up? Welcome. Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Rebecca Robinson Udis, Ward 2. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here tonight to highlight the overarching deception that makes House Bill 26-1285 necessary in the first place. 2 years ago, the state of Colorado wheeled in a Trojan horse onto Grant Drive. They decorated it with the language of compassionate recovery and mental health support to make it look like a gift in our community. Once it arrived in our school zone, residents found out what was really hiding inside the belly of that horse. A plan to house convicted predators less than 900 feet away from Stookie Elementary. The state of Colorado discreetly used the sympathetic faces of mental health to smuggle sex offenders, a forensic population, into our school zone. This was not an oversight. This was not an accidental lack of transparency. It was strategy. The state knew that any rational parent would not want their child walking in the direct pathway of predatory criminals. There is a colossal difference between the two groups. Forensic care is a branch of the justice system where predators are ordered to undergo mental health treatment as a part of their criminal sentence. Mixing civil mental health patients with forensic offenders that have predatory tendencies in a low security setting creates a predator-prey dynamic that endangers both patients and the surrounding neighborhood. It is not a crime to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. It is not a crime to suffer from severe depression, but it is an egregious crime to make the conscious decision to rape someone or molest a child. The two groups are not one and the same. They never have been, and they never will be. We must stop allowing the state to conflate mental health patients with predatory criminals. It is a disservice to our community, but it is also a disservice to actual mental health patients. You cannot provide a sanctuary for patients in recovery in a house with criminals that need forensic surveillance. The state deceitfully used the earlier House Bill 22-1303, as a Trojan horse to route sex offenders in school zones. I'm guessing they just didn't know where else to put them, so they wanted to piggyback off of these, because the facilities that are here that they're coming up with in all these different locations, they're really a great idea, but the state is just messing it up by conflating these two groups. It was actually, I would argue, it's a slap in the face for real mental health advocacy. House Bill 26-1285 would correct this wrong by ensuring that while we support the need for mental health beds, we do not support placing sexual predators in our school zones. Our children at Stuckey Elementary should not be the test subjects for a state program that has already seen a recent stabbing in January and over 70 911 calls. Even if the facility is not near a school, I would still argue that mixing the two populations is wrong, dangerous, and a policy failure. The state needs to stop taking fiscal shortcuts with our safety. Reintegrating sexual predators requires specialized containment, not just a spare bedroom in a mental health home filled with vulnerable individuals. How does a patient who is also a survivor of sexual assault benefit from having to share the same facility space with a sexual predator? How do they benefit from that? They don't. As of right now, these mental health transitional living facilities are nothing more than a Trojan horse. Don't let the state contaminate these much-needed facilities with convicted sexual predators. While the nation demands accountability regarding the Epstein files and wants consequences for those who protect predators, Colorado is moving in the opposite direction by attempting to smuggle and protect convicted sexual predators within our school zones. The irony there is not lost on me. The state needs to pass House Bill 26-1285. For the committee members who are already planning on voting no, Epstein would be so proud. Northglenn cannot and will not be the Trojan horse that is forced to accept this gift that will only compromise school zones and dismantle our safety from the inside. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to council that did not have a chance to sign up? Okay. All right, we're going to move to proclamations. We have 2 tonight. If council would join me down front. Good evening. So our first proclamation tonight is Brain Injury Awareness Month. Wow. Come on down. I love it. Now, I'm so glad you're here. So Chair of the Dice Board, Ryan Easterling Babin, the Dice Board recommended this proclamation along with Councilmember Madison Leidy, and they are both here to accept this proclamation tonight. And I see more Dice Board members. Anyone want to come? Do you want to join us? No? I like your ribbon. All right. March is recognized nationwide as Brain Injury Awareness Month to raise awareness about brain injury prevention, education, and support for survivors and their families. And whereas brain injuries, whether traumatic or acquired, can occur due to falls, motor vehicle crashes, sports injuries, acts of violence, stroke, tumors, or other medical conditions, and can affect individuals of all ages. And whereas brain injury is often referred to as an invisible injury, as its physical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral effects may not be immediately apparent, yet may significantly impact a person's daily life. And whereas millions of Americans, including residents of Northglenn, live with the effect of brain injury, demonstrating resilience, strength, and determination as they navigate recovery and long-term challenges. And whereas prevention strategies such as wearing seatbelts and helmets, practicing safe driving habits, implementing fall prevention measures, and promoting safe recreational environments can significantly reduce the risk of brain injury. And whereas caregivers, healthcare professionals, educators, advocates, and community organizations provide critical support, resources, and services that help individuals with brain injury live with dignity and participate fully in their communities. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Brain Injury Awareness Month in the City of Northglenn, and encourage all residents to increase their understanding of brain injury, support prevention efforts, and recognize the strength and perseverance of survivors and their families. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 9th day of March, 2026. So this is for you. Would you like to add anything?
Sorry, thank you. I'm not as good as Ryan is when he gets proclamations. He just talks. But first I want to thank the DICE board for bringing this up. As someone living with a traumatic brain injury, this recognition is deeply personal to me. Your brain is incredibly important. It controls everything you do, everything you feel, and everything that you are. When it's injured, life changes in ways that are often invisible to others, yet profoundly impactful every single day. Traumatic brain injuries remain one of the leading causes of death and disabilities for individuals under the age of 45. That reality underscores how critical awareness, prevention, and education truly are. By recognizing this month, we are helping reduce stigma, encourage understanding, and show support for individuals and families navigating life after brain injury. I also want to take a moment to encourage our community, as stated in the proclamation, to always protect your brain. Wear a helmet when you're riding a bike. Always wear a seatbelt, even if you're only going a short distance. These small, simple actions can prevent life-altering consequences. Thank you again for your support for this proclamation and standing with those impacted by brain injury.
Okay. City Manager Guyer, is that other duties as assigned?
It is other duties as assigned, but not for long. I'm in the process of hiring a comms director.
All right, I would also like to, Celeste, thanks for coming. So we have DICE board members with us for Women's History Month as well. This is Celeste Jackson. Women's History Month is celebrated each March to honor the vital contributions of women to the history, culture, and progress of our nation and our local communities. And whereas the 2026 national theme, Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, recognizes the essential role women play in advancing environmental stewardship, economic vitality, civic leadership, and inclusive decision-making for generations to come. And whereas the City of Northglenn has long been shaped and strengthened by the leadership, service, and vision of women who have helped guide the community through growth, innovation, and transformation. And whereas women in Northglenn continue to lead and serve across our community as elected officials, city staff, members of boards and commissions, educators, business owners, nonprofit leaders, public safety professionals, neighborhood advocates, and dedicated volunteers, contributing to initiatives that support water conservation, park and open space stewardship, public safety, economic development, civic engagement, and inclusive community building. And whereas through their leadership, women past and present have strengthened Northglenn's civic life, enhanced its environmental and economic sustainability, and reinforced our shared commitment to opportunity, equity, and responsible growth. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Women's History Month in the City of Northglenn, and encourage all residents to celebrate the women who are leading change, shaping a sustainable future, and strengthening our community for generations to come. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 9th day of March, 2026. So thank you. Would you like to add? Thanks.
Well, women's history is American history, and if you're interested in learning about women's history, visit your public library or visit Colorado Women's Hall of Fame, and you can see all of the different contributions that have been celebrated already. And a new group will be coming in the new year and honored for their contributions to the state of Colorado. Thank you.
And before we take the photo, I would like to invite our women leaders to come on up and join us for this photo. So if you feel comfortable, we included our volunteers. We have very strong women that came to speak tonight. If you would like to join us, but definitely city leadership, including our esteemed city clerk. Will you join us for a quick photo? Hey, yeah, you hold it. Come on. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Anybody else? You want to come? Come join us. Our guests, you're welcome. You contribute amazingly to our community. Anyone else? Okay.
All right, I think I can see everybody. Good. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, good idea. All right, next up we have a presentation, the Youth Commission 2025 Annual Update. So I'd like to welcome Youth Commission members Brandon Martin. Is Sarah with you as well?
Sarah is not here today.
Okay, well, Brandon, take it away.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brandon Martin, and I am currently serving as the Vice President of the Youth Commission, and I'm here to present the annual report of 2025. Sorry, I was not aware of the slideshow. So, as of the Board of Directors, finishing up in 2025, there was Mega Bippin, who was the Vice President, Leon Shi, who was the Secretary, Anusha Kanal, who was the Public Relations and Communications Manager, Cheyenne Galler, who was a board member, myself, who was a board member too, and who completed the service was Kate File. Oh, that's too far. Okay. For the board openings, down at the bottom of the page, as of December 2025, there were 10 vacancies of the Youth Commission Board of Directors in an effort to fill the vacant positions that would be left by several seniors graduating in May 2025. The Commission turned its attention to increasing recruitment efforts over completing priority projects. Openings were posted on the Youth Commission's webpage, social media, Northglenn Parks Recreation and Cultural Activity Guide, and have been promoted to the Northglenn Connection. Moving on to the recruitment efforts. There was the school recruitment, the Mayor's Monthly Minute, and Naslie's Video Spotlight. First off is the school recruitment. The Commission made efforts to directly contact middle and high schools in Northglenn and in the Adams 12 District by directing staff liaison to begin acting on their behalf for recruitment. The middle schoolers that were contacted are Silver Hills, Northglenn Middle School, STEM Lab, and Holstrom K-8. I went to Holstrom K-8, and that is actually how I found out about that, is because my little sister read the newsletter and saw the email. Anyways, the list of high schools that were contacted are the Northglenn High School, the Vantage Point, Mountain Range, Horizon, and Legacy. Additionally, board members have been asked their fellow peers at their schools to join the commission. Moving on to the Mayor's Monthly Minute, Mira Bippin, Nasli Sufiani, and Sayush Shrestha were interviewed by Mayor Lighty for the Mayor's Monthly Minute in April with the goal to promote the vacant board positions for the Youth Commission. These graduated board members discussed projects they enjoyed working on, such as healthy eating habits and mental health in public spotlight. As for Naslie's video spotlight, she was highlighted in an interview explaining why she joined the commission and how it has shaped her. Sorry, did I skip it? Okay, thank you. How it has shaped her as a person and why others should get involved. She explained that she had to look for external opportunities in order to get involved in the community outside of her school. Nasli expressed her love for all projects she worked on because they are completed determined by youth in the Youth Commission. Lastly, her constant communication with the community, Nasli determined that she had improved leadership skills by participating on the board. As for the outreach efforts at the bottom of the page, this was by Mega, who was a vice president, and me. The commission continued to be involved with community events in Northglenn, such as Safe Street Halloween, the Northglenn Pride and Christmas Crusade. Prior to Safe Street taking place, the commission received a request for candy donations. The board donated a little under $500 worth of candy to the event. Kate, the previous board president, attended Northglenn Pride at a table and continue positive collaboration with the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board. Finally, myself and Cheyenne helped wrap presents at the Justice Center in support of the efforts of the Christmas Crusade. Moving on to the priority projects, there is environmental advocacy and safe havens. So for the environmental advocacy, in 2025, the Youth Commission focused on environmental advocacy through a social media campaign and connecting teens to earth-friendly activities in the community. The board shared ideas for possible events and projects to lead and participate in and settled on celebrating awareness days on social media, such as Global Recycling Day and Worldwide Day. The commission also intended to participate the Farmers Highline Canal cleanup, but ended up having to take a sick day. Through these efforts, the board was able to convey the importance of protecting the environment, how small actions can make a difference, and how Youth Commission can play an active role in keeping their community clean and safe. In terms of the safe havens, in 2025, the commission made limited progress on developing safe havens for local teens. Although no projects were implemented, the board engaged in meaningful discussions, shared ideas on how to create safe spaces, and provided opportunities for youth to get involved. These conversations helped create a baseline understanding of the community's needs and gave structure with a purpose to future safe haven project plans. The safe haven goal has been moved forward into 2026 with the goal to have it completed the first half of the year. The Youth Commission aims to make progress by providing advocacy in the development of programs and and opportunities that allow supportive and safe spaces for youth and teens in Northglenn, such as recreation centers, after-school drop-in activities. The board continues to support places for youth and safety and comfort. Moving on to boards and commissions training. This was presented by Mega, who's the vice president. So Anusha Kanal, Alex Sandhu, and Leon Shi were able to attend the city's first boards and commissions training to review the boards and commissions handbook. With the city boards and commissions, the commissioners were able to better understand the open meetings and took away some tips and advice for how to better serve the board and advice for how to better serve the board and their community. These members were also able to learn more about some of the other boards and commissions that are part of the Northglenn community, as well as the purpose and missions of these boards. Under the dome was an opportunity for members of the Youth Commission to be able to meet with legislative members of the Colorado State Capitol building. Members of the board were able to sit on a legislative session and meet with the Colorado representatives to hear some of the unique projects they were working on. The commissioners were able to meet with Representative Jenny Wilford, who represents Colorado's 34th district. They were able to discuss important issues for youth in Northglenn and how some of these topics can be addressed, as well as some of the other projects that Representative Wilford was working on. As for the 2026 priority projects, at the end of 2025, The new board members met to discuss what goals they would like to achieve in 2026 and how to address projects incomplete in 2025. Board members ultimately decided to extend for the 2025 Safe Havens project into 2026 in addition to new projects. Teen engagement was selected to address increasing interest and access to programs for youth and teens in the community. Youth addiction awareness was selected to address the consistent need to ensure that the community members are aware of how addiction affects youth in the community and to connect youth to available resources. And the last part is the graduating seniors, who include the following: Mira Bipin, Alex Ekim Sandhu, Sayush Shrestha, and Nazli Sufiyani. Thank you so much for allowing me to present the annual report, and I yield your time to questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Comments? Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to your community, and thank you for being a leader within the youth, and you guys are the future, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you so much. Councilmember Roper is the new liaison, but I was for much of this report, and it was wonderful working with the Youth Commission. Y'all are so inspiring, and I love the initiatives that you're continuing to do in the community are so important, so keep it up. We really appreciate the work you do.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Leidy.
I just want to echo some of the things that my fellow council members said. I also want to thank you so much for coming. You did such a great job. You publicly speak very well. I would be so nervous. But also, again, thank you so much for all of the work that you guys do and you're continuing to doing. The youth engagement piece stood out to me. It's amazing that you guys are still trying to engage everyone, even if sometimes it feels like maybe no one's paying attention. But you guys are still working so hard, and it's amazing.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much for being here. I was also a former council liaison. All those kids that graduated, they were in my group. And I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. It continues even when you leave the commission. I still hear from some of those former commissioners, and they're doing great things, including still working on some of those issues that you're working on, like youth addiction. So that legacy continues, and I'm just so proud of the work that you're doing. So thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Brandon. That was a lovely presentation. We always enjoy hearing a summary of the work that's been done, but also listening to your priorities for the coming year. We're happy to have you. Really looking forward to the work that you're going to do. Thank you for supporting the Northglenn community.
Thank you for allowing me to
Have a
speak.
good night.
You too.
Okay, moving to council communications. We'll start with Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to the residents who came out and spoke about our bill. Councilmember Seaver will be updating from the Legislative Committee, so I'll let him report out on that. Otherwise, I am recovering from health, so we're just getting back into the swing of things. I want to say my heart is with all the family members that have already lost someone to the conflict in the Middle East. My heart goes out to you all, including someone who was stationed here in Colorado. On a lighter note, happy International Women's Day yesterday, and happy Women's History Month, everyone. Wearing white again in support. And I just want to say a special shout out to the DICE board and my fellow ward mate for bringing brain injury awareness to the forefront. When I was in my early 20s, I suffered a traumatic brain injury and learned how to walk and talk and write again. And so this is a big deal. It's really where I learned how important access to healthcare is, and that, as well as, tomorrow isn't guaranteed. So everyone should try their best today. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Leidy.
Thank you. I also would like to echo some of the things that Councilmember Burns just said. Yes, Brain Injury Awareness Month is super important to me. I think living the past 4 years with my traumatic brain injury, it changes your entire world. It changes everything, and it changes the way that you interact with, the health. I love that you brought that up, the healthcare system. I was like, whoa, that really changes your perspective on things. And so it's huge, and there's people all over the world that are facing that. A couple of weeks ago, I was able to attend a tour of the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus. That is the most amazing place I've ever been to. It was so awesome to see the different levels, the different tiers that they offer, the different programs that they offer, the different resources, it was so amazing. We walked in and they were explaining how, well, here, you can come get your documents. And, well, if you need this and if you get a court date, hey, well, here's a whole section where you can meet with your prosecutor and you can do all the things in this campus. And so it was really, really amazing. And I left inspired, and I left in a way better mood than I went walking in there too. So I would just like everyone to kind of look out for that, especially on council. So yeah.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so it's been 2 weeks since we had a regular meeting. On Tuesday, February 24th, I attended a candidate forum in Thornton for Congressional District 8. So whoever's going to face up, Gabe Evans, Rep. Manny Rutnell was there, Evan Munsing, and Shannon Bird's the other candidate. So I'm going to keep promoting voting until votes are cast and done. So 112 days to the primary, June 30th. 239 days till the midterm, general elections, November 3rd. 18 out of the 35 state senators are up for re-election. All 65 state House reps are up for a re-election. All 435 U.S. House reps are up for a re-election. And 33 out of the 100 U.S. senators are up for re-election. So if you don't like how things are going, go change it. On Tuesday, right after, I actually didn't finish the candidate forum before we transitioned over to Prost for the community input session on 104th area. So I just want to thank the community for coming out. Seemed like they got good traction, and thanks to the staff and Prost for having us. On Friday, March 6th, I attended the Adams County State of the Region AC Rep, Adams County Regional Economic Partnership. The conversations were around energy infrastructure, production, job sector changes, demographics, educational needs, and more. I was there with Councilmember Kondo and the Economic Development Director, Allison Moding, Marissa Phillips, and Christy Chambers. I know Mayor Pro Tem was planning to be there, but she was recovering from an illness. Sorry, I'm glad to see you back. Also, I swung by Post 22, American Legion Post 22, for coffee with the mayor. Then I had to go to work. Today, prior to the Legislative Policy Committee, I spent time with our crew manager, Jessica. Got to see the Justice Center a little bit, but we went out to a few situations, and I promised as newer council member to keep trying to get to know the staff and all the different departments we have, 10 or 11. So that was really the first effort to get out there with folks, and I'm going to keep trying to do that. There's a lot to talk about with legislative policy stuff, so I'll just try to scream through it real quick. This is not going to be like a detailed list. I ask everyone to go to the Colorado legislature, look up bills. They have them by sections. So there's about 65 days left in the legislative session. Over 500 bills and resolutions have been done. And the budget will be introduced on March 30th. So you guys, I think 800 million that are going to be cut. Some bills quickly to discuss, HB 26-1001. It's the local control over allowing nonprofits and such to build affordable housing. We oppose it for local control reasons. Also, 1114, minimum lot size. So if you don't want your neighbor's house to be knocked down and then they build 8 units on it, we don't want that. Also, HB 1308, it's a lot splitting bill. If you don't want your neighbor's house to be split into 2 houses and changed without any local control, that's important. Let's see. There's a lot of bills. I don't think I'm gonna cover them all. There's
we have a website too.
Is it updated? I don't know if our bill, let's see, where's it at? 1285, HB 26-1285 is up for committee on March 18th at 1:30 p.m. I know we're trying to figure out who's testifying there, so if you like to show up, no one can stop you. You can go to the Colorado legislator and sign up with no one else involved. You can just sign up for it. Is there any other ones you want to cover? There's a lot of bills. So we just met for an hour, and I can't sit here for an hour and talk about it. So
They can email the Ledge Committee if they have any questions.
they can email the legislative. Burns, you can go ahead and talk.
You did a great first job reporting out. I have to say thank you to Councilmember Severs. He's new on the Legislative Committee. This is his first reporting
Jeez.
out, and it's a lot.
Wow.
So we have a website on our northglenn.org, a subpage that we will update where that has contact information for all of our representatives and who we're working with. And thank you so much. Melissa, I'm just going to use your first name. Is that okay? For listing out the 11 state reps who are on the committee. We have a divide and conquer sort of situation going on there as well. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to email the legislative committee, and we're happy to chat about whatever. That is myself, Councilmember Severs, and Mayor Pro Tem Lukman Hiramasa with any questions, and then we will be updating the website, which I think is northglenn.org/legislative committee. I think that's the URL. We will get that information out, but I'm pretty sure that's it. All right, sorry.
And finally, thanks for Councilmember Burns for saving me. As an Iraq vet, I just want to say I don't think a war of choice is a great use of the federal dollars. Iran is a country of 93 million, 3 times the size of Iraq, similar mountainous landscape terrain to Afghanistan. Maxed out when we were in Iraq, we had 170,000 troops and 100,000 in Afghanistan. Again, this is twice as many people. I would like to call out Army Sergeant Benjamin Pennington out of Fort Carson, Colorado, who was one of our KIA recently. He's from Kentucky originally. This conflict is gonna turn into a world war if you don't correct yourself or wreck yourself. The GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, 80% of the food consumed are imports through the Strait of Hormuz. 20 million barrels per day travel through there, 20% of the world's oil, which is the biggest thing for our friends like Japan. 75% of their oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. And we're just, the more I read, I have a ton of facts in front of you. I'm not going to read them off to you, but I think it's another mistake. Thank you.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing for me tonight.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 3 items. First of all, hopefully most of you or all of you on the day should have received an email from North Metro discussing the district tour that's going to take place on April 30th from 9 a.m. to 4. You did not. Okay, I will make sure that the North Metro folks do send that to you. This is a joint tour with the Broomfield, City and County of Broomfield council members and mayor. So great opportunity to get to know your other counterparts in the wonderful City and County of Broomfield. Again, Thursday, April 30th, bus transportation provided, or if you cannot stay the entire time, we can coordinate to have you join via personal vehicle. There will be tours of the training center, which happens to be in Northglenn, yay, as well as 2 other or 3 other fire stations, both in Northglenn and the Broomfield area. Second of all, as Councilmember Josh Severs just mentioned, I was at the AC rep meeting. I thought it was a very interesting presentation. The second person in charge there at DOLA, I think his name is Martinez, I'm forgetting if his last name, but he presented on the demographics that are going on at the state level, actually at the federal, at U.S. level, state, county, and then all the way down to Northglenn, so he did drill down. But I just want to share with the public just one takeaway. I thought it was really an epiphany. And that is that, the state continues to grow through a lot of influx of new people coming from other places. And usually they're working professionals with college degrees, which is great. And then, of course, they get married and have kids, and then all of a sudden they can't find childcare, and then they end up moving back to the states from which they came from because their parents or the grandparents can actually look after the kids. So then all of a sudden we have a brain drain. So I thought it was really fascinating to really understand that really Colorado has a great education system. We bring a lot of talent in, we develop that talent, but we're not able to keep it just because either housing is not affordable and or childcare is just out of reach. So that's one thing that I think I will reflect on and think about as we work through our policies and talk to other legislators to figure out how to fix that problem. Finally, a shout out to a resident. I tried to sign her up for the Good Neighbor Award, and I asked for her name and phone number, which she was really embarrassed to share with me. She said, my name is Diana, and I'm just happy to come out here on the Greenway Trail along Grant Ditch and pick up the trash. And she said there was no need for putting me in for recognition, but I am going to publicly embarrass her now. Obviously, Diana, if you're watching, you know who you are. But she does this during the wintertime because she's afraid of doing it in the summer when there are snakes. And I tried to reassure her that unlike Arizona where we have rattlesnakes there, the snakes here in Colorado are not poisonous, but nonetheless.
We have snakes.
Yeah, we have poisonous snakes.
Well, at least in Northglenn along our Greenway trails, as far as I know. Now, if you'd like me to go and walk my dog and try and find a rattlesnake,
No, don't do that.
I know this is going sideways, but I am the jokester on council, so I do like to keep it light. But in all seriousness, this is just one of many residents that just go out and they do what they do. They're not seeking, fame or reward. They do it because they love their city. And on behalf of those people, I just want to say thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Something's moved here. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to Councilmember Leidy. I thought that was incredibly brave of you to share your story and what you've been through, and also Councilmember Burns. That is such an important proclamation. I had a terrible car accident a year ago too, so I know life is not guaranteed, tomorrow's not guaranteed. But I thought it was really special that we were able to have this proclamation, so thank you. And happy International Women's Day, of course. All right, with that being said, I did miss a lot because I had a little stint in the ER, but I'm here, so all's good. What I will go over briefly is we've had a bunch of community engagement and education committee meetings for the Family Justice Center. And just to let you all know, we're still working on like grassroots stuff, things like flyers, setting up trauma-informed training that will help inform the wording in our flyers, and getting input from survivors of domestic violence for that type of information I think is important as well. So those are the kinds of things that we're working on, and also, information that will go out to city council members, for example, to support the FJC versus what community members need to know on what an FJC is, which a lot of folks don't know. So more coming on that, but we are working hard. We've had at least 4 meetings in the last couple of weeks, so we will continue working on that and setting up micro trainings. I also toured the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus, as Councilmember Leidy reported out on that. It was very inspirational to see how they help folks. There's that saying, not a hand out, but a hand up, and I think they truly tried to do that there. They really try to set folks up for success. And there's just a lot of everyday people that were there. There's a lot of people, but they had their dogs, and I'm like, I love my dog. Like, I couldn't imagine having to be separated from your pets. They're building kennels. They have special rooms for folks that are ready for that next level of employment and training, and a little bit more privacy. And the mayor, I don't want to steal her thunder, but she used the word dignity, and that stuck with me. So I'll leave it at that if she would like to report more out on that. But it was just it's just a reality check. You just never know what life might throw at you, and that might change your life. And so you try to see the human portion of that, and I think I saw that a lot. So that was really cool to see. And took a tour of the Good Shepherd Pantry. Council member, I don't think you reported out on that. Okay, along with Councilmember Kondo, and that was just a great opportunity to see what we do here in our local community to help folks, and women and children in there, just getting food for their families. So that was pretty cool to see too, knowing that we have programs in Adams County that we approved to kind of change how we use our CDBG funds to support more of those. So I think it was important just to see that. And that's an option for anyone on City Council that would like to show up and do a tour. Just let them know. They're happy to show you. We also learned about how much they need. So kind of heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time. I went to a Rotary Club meeting and got to see Fire Chief Doherty talk a little bit about what's going on in our community, which was really cool. The cost of fire trucks have doubled, and that was pretty crazy. It takes 4 years to get a fire truck now on order, which is insane. Talked about that and the calls for service, which are exponentially growing, mostly medical. And, a lot of our folks are served by North Metro, so important to continue to support that. And then after that, I got really, really sick. So didn't go to this, didn't go to that. And we had legislative committee today, and thank you, Councilmember Severs. You did just fine reporting out. It is a lot. I will add just something to that, because when we hear, or when residents hear we're opposing a bill that prevents, lot splitting and affordable housing. None of these bills ensure affordable housing. They take away local authority, our ability to determine whether we have the infrastructure to support, more residential density in your neighborhoods. Your neighborhood street of 7 houses could turn into 14 houses, could turn into duplexes, and on and on and on. And we just need to have a say in that, on how our services are utilized. And none of them actually can guarantee that those homes that are being built are affordable. So I'll just add that. And the last thing is, there was a comment, and public comment is, I love it. I encourage everyone to say whatever they want to say, but there was some misinformation out there that we have done nothing in the last 2 years regarding this mental health treatment facility bill. And I just have to say, come talk to any of us, and we will tell you personally and have a conversation, have coffee with us, and we will fill you in on all the things we have been working very hard on. I encourage you to look up how a bill becomes law. There's I think there's a whole PowerPoint on the Colorado General Assembly's website that you can look up, or just Google it. It is an intense process. It is a very complicated process. You don't just say, we're going to make a bill, snap your fingers, and it happens. So it has taken 2 years, but we're pretty proud to be where we are right now, and we're going to keep fighting for that. That is all, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And apologies, I did not intentionally skip Councilmember Goff, but she is with us. So sorry. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. No problem. I first apologize that I couldn't be there with you. I was called away on a family emergency, so I'm out of the state. I do appreciate bringing attention to Women's History Month. Women have made a lot of progress in recent decades, and we want to make sure that we continue that and not lose any of our rights or any of the advances that we have made in our society. So please take time to think about it, to do some reading, and help everyone to celebrate the women in their lives. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, there was Councilmember Kondo had so many things to talk about, but this Saturday is the Ward 3 meeting. It'll be in City Council building at 10 a.m. and we invite, you don't have to be a Ward 3 member to come and attend that, but that will give you a chance to talk to your Ward 3 representatives. I do plan on being there for that meeting, so I hope to see a lot of you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have just a few things. I attended my first Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation Board. That is a fun group. They are lovely. And it was very interesting It was a solid meeting with all sorts of things like the budget, upcoming events, and so much more. Please check out their website. They have really incredible events coming up. And I did get a sneak peek, and I cannot tell you what's coming next year, but there's some pretty amazing events coming in the 26-27 year. We do have an amazing theater with an incredible staff, and they pull in some high quality art. So please come see it. Also, I did attend the Aurora Navigation Center tour. I know 2 people have already discussed it. The word dignity was in my brain the whole entire time. It was an extremely inspirational tour for sure. I think what I was most impressed by is the scaffolded tiered system. It supports people. It puts the right amount of scaffolds in place for them to be successful. It was just really beautifully done. It was also safe. They highlighted a lot of the safety features that they have in place, and it was just great. And so I was really honored to be able to take that tour. Attended the ribbon cutting for a new business in Northglenn. The Big Blue Swim School has opened in the Northglenn Marketplace. We always like to see a new business in that space, so we don't have empty spaces over there. This is a great organization. Learning how to swim is a life skill. One of the highlights for me is that they do have a program for individuals with disabilities, and that's not as common for swim schools. And so if you are interested in learning how to swim, or you want your small children to learn how to swim, check it out. I want to thank Tom. He comes every week, and it's just so nice. And we're not the only city he comes to. I don't know if people know that. He does a little bit of a tour in the area and prays for us all, which is just so kind. But I appreciated his words tonight. Yeah. And let's see. I was going to say, you can tell we think alike up here, my Mayor Pro Tem and I, because a lot of what she shared was exactly what was in my notes about the public comment tonight. So the mental health transitional living facility, we 100% agree with all of the sentiments that were presented at the podium tonight. We know this is a problem. And it was also raised at my coffee with the mayor on Saturday. The question was, why have you done nothing for 2 years? And I do encourage you, if that is your feeling about it, please send us an email. We can list all of the things that we have been doing for the last 2 years. It is a lot of work. It's all behind the scenes. We have been working with legislators. We have been, constantly trying to get people to help us. It has been a hard-fought battle. So when she says we're proud of where we are, but we're also not stopping the energy and the fight that we have. So we're going to be active in the next couple of weeks. We want to get this through committee. We want to get it passed. It is critical that it is passed. And if you saw the CBS News story, I wanted to thank our police chief, Jim May. He did a great job on camera. Well done. And also our crew manager, Jessica Hulse, was part of the interview. And it was really important to elevate it for the public that this is something that the state needs to pay attention to. It is critical that they pay attention to it. But it's kind of a dual fight. We are really wanting this bill to pass, but we also want more authority, and we want them to pay attention to these sites and manage them well so that they are safe for the residents that live there. But as she said, I also had written down, to know how long it takes a bill to go through the Colorado legislature is painful. The state legislators that we have, they get 5 bills, maybe a 6th bill every year, and they pick those a year to a year and a half ahead. They have them in their list of things they want to accomplish while they are serving, and we couldn't get it in. We fought and fought and fought, and we ended up going with 2 legislators that are not ours. So we are very grateful to Representative Goldstein for authoring the bill, along with support from Senator Kyle Mullica. So neither of those are our representatives. So we fought outside of Northglenn to get that help. And so again, if you're curious about that, or if you do think we took our eye off the ball, please email us and we will let you know all of the work that went on. And just to respond a little bit to the lack of a town hall, we did want to host a town hall, but it was critical that we had state leaders there, state staff, the staff that's managing these facilities. We needed them to attend, and communicating with them and getting on their schedule was a struggle. And we pushed and pushed, and I want to thank city staff and especially our city attorney. He also has been very diligent through this process, and we really, really appreciate it. So just to know, we're obviously very passionate about it. We have not stopped focusing on it, and we're hoping to get it across the finish line. And that is all I have. So, City Clerk Small.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do not have any updates tonight.
Thank you. City Manager Guyer.
I have two updates this evening, Mayor and Council. The first is that we'll be hosting a candidate meet and greet this Thursday, March 12th at 6 p.m. in the community rooms for the position of Communications Marketing and Engagement Director. So please feel free to attend that session and get to know the two candidates that'll be presenting. And one of them will be our next Director of Communications. The second update that I have for you this evening is there was a Family Justice Center steering committee this evening. So to echo what Mayor Pro Tem shared earlier, part of that meeting was a micro training based on the recommendations of a subcommittee. It was a trauma-informed training provided by Dr. Ambra Bourne with Reducing Hope, which is a local nonprofit that supports victims of domestic violence. They are still working through the process of selecting an executive director, so hopefully by the next steering committee meeting, we'll have an update to share on that front, as well as the timeline for opening the temporary FJC is still Q3, Q4 of this year. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Hoffman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. The only thing I would add to the discussion about the pending legislation is that Northglenn and also the Colorado Municipal League, as part of this process, have also partnered with the Colorado Association of School Boards. And I think that's probably a significant indication of sort of the broad-reaching nature of this type of legislation and that it applies statewide. And, you know, frankly, if Northglenn took the tact of trying to file some sort of cease and desist order against a state facility, I would be asking you for permission to pay attorney fees and costs for the other side when we lost, based on the existing law in the state of Colorado that was frankly made by the city of Northglenn about 25 years ago in a Supreme Court case called the City of Northglenn versus Ibarra. So we know the best ways to try to manage this, and trying to litigate it against the state on that type of issue would be a losing proposition.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I hadn't logged in. My bad. Good.
Okay.
I know, I was locked out.
Okay. I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have quite a few resolutions tonight. We will start with CR 46. Will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and Joy Riot LLC for a communications and marketing assessment.
City Manager Heather.
Move for approval.
Sorry.
Oops. Move for approval. Second.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome City Manager Heather Guyer to the podium to provide a summary of this item. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to provide some background for the public's benefit. We are advancing CR 46 this evening, which is to initiate an independent evaluation of the city's communications. The purpose of this project is threefold. First, to evaluate the city's communications and marketing strategies, tools, staffing, and resources to identify strengths, gaps, and opportunities, and to provide recommendations for a forward-looking, sustainable, and measurable strategy. Ultimately, we are hoping to develop a unified marketing strategy and brand identity that builds trust, strengthens community pride, promotes engagement, supports economic vitality, and positions the city of Northglenn as the community of choice. So a couple of things to know about the scope of services that was provided to you in your packet. Initially, when the city received requests for proposals, we received responses from 35 firms, which is an incredible response on this project. The subcommittee made up of Mayor Pro Tem, Council Members Kondo and Burns, and myself. We interviewed several of those firms, and the subcommittee did decide to recommend to council for consideration tonight the firm of Joy Riot. I do have members of the firm here this evening, and in a moment I'll turn it over to John Armstrong, the Chief Creative Officer, who can share a little bit about the project, and he is also here to answer any questions about the scope. After the initial interview process, I did go back and relook at the scope, and I did, that was me, expand the scope to make sure that we included a robust engagement process, in particular bringing in staff in the process. So we expanded the initial interviews that were set at 10. We expanded them to 16. But you can see in the scope of services, it's itemized with groups of employees that are critical to engage in this process to get their feedback, buy-in, as well as they're the experts within their respective areas of the city. And so we really want to make sure they're brought into this process early on. We also expanded the possible in-person engagement with City Council from up to 4 in-person meetings rather than a couple, which I felt was very appropriate. If we don't end up needing those, we won't use those. So I'd encourage you to think about the budget amount of $73,112 as a not to exceed amount. This project is scheduled to kick off tomorrow. We have team members here, as I mentioned, and it's scheduled to run through mid-October. Certainly subject to change, but I think also in your packet you see an itemized timeline, and I think we can easily keep on schedule and keep the project moving forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to John Armstrong, who can introduce his other team members with him tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, City Manager Geyer. Nice to meet everybody. Some of you I've met before. I'm John Armstrong, the co-founder and chief creative officer of Joy Riot, an advertising agency I started 9 years ago with my other co-founder. With us is a member of our staff, Natalie, and Rick Emerato from CCG, who is going to help us in the project. Rick, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Like John said, my name is Rick Emerato. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, and staff. I'm a principal at Civic Consulting Group. We are a multidisciplinary firm that offers services to municipalities, nonprofits, and the private sector. And we're a very interesting group. We're made up of past city administrators. I myself have been an assistant city manager, economic development managers and directors, as well as city attorneys and public information officers. So we have a breadth of experience in the particular type of communications that municipalities do. We understand the varied constituencies that you have. We know that, depending on who you're talking to and what you're talking about, how you communicate is going to be different. So our role here is to make sure that we have a good lens to focus your communication process through. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to get started and to learn a lot about Northglenn. It seems to be a wonderful community. I know this is just the start, but one of the best parts of this job is getting to come to a community and learn all about it. So thank you.
It's our second trip and we're already enjoying it. Just to give you an idea, and all of this is in your packet, but in broad strokes, I'll go over the scope of work. So we start with an information immersion. That's when City Manager Geyer talked about starting tomorrow. That's the plan, that we start the immersion tomorrow. From there, we go into stakeholder engagement. That's us speaking, right, to different stakeholders. A community survey, benchmarking against peer municipalities, which will inform best practices. That leads into a gap analysis. Where are we? Where do we want to be? What's the gap in between those two? All of this ends with an implementation roadmap. So, okay, we know where we want to go. Here's the roadmap in order to get there. And the last thing I'll say, I know I just used a whole bunch of marketing jargon, right? So the best way to think about this is our methodology is start, stop, continue, right? So what do we need to start doing that we're not doing? What do we need to continue doing that we're doing well? What do we need to stop doing that's not helping us at all? And with that, I'll hand it over to you guys.
Do you have specific questions for us, or is this just about the scope of the work?
This is about the scope of the work, so if council has any specific questions about what you see in the packet, now would be an appropriate time to ask. We will be, after our initial kickoff meeting tomorrow, be reaching out likely through McCall to get you scheduled for a virtual one-on-one meeting with the project team.
Councilmember Nowicki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you all for being here tonight. As I'm kind of looking through this, I notice in purple or pink, I believe. I'm just wondering, Northglenn has, about 35% Spanish Hispanic community. I'm kind of wondering, I don't know if this is grayed out because we're not doing this or if that's kind of an add-on thing. Kind of wondering what's being done to kind of engage those communities.
Yeah, so everybody will be able to take the community survey that'll be posted on social media. However, as an add-on, in order to engage even, more fully with both the Spanish-speaking community and Pashto-speaking, we do have add-ons here. So we can add on focus groups where there will be moderators who speak Spanish or Pashto, depending on, do you want to speak to both groups, one or the other, but we can do that. We can also have assessment surveys that are in their languages, so that's an add-on as well. So that doesn't need to be decided on tonight, but it's out there and it's optional.
Okay. Yeah, I think whatever we can do to kind of engage those communities. I don't want to disrespect the Pashto community, but I know we have a pretty predominant Spanish community, Hispanic community. So whatever we can do to kind of engage them and make sure that that voice is included as well. Yep. I understand sometimes money can be an issue, but I think that's important.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you. All, it's nice to see you again. Thank you for being here. I think this looks great. It's very aligned. And if anyone's wondering, just like from a subcommittee perspective, we really enjoyed Joyride's sort of blending of private sector and modern marketing takes with their working with Rick to bring sort of that city element in that lens, which was very unique and which we really enjoyed. We enjoyed a bunch of other things too, like don't get me wrong. But if anyone has any questions for the subcommittee as well, like please let us know, I guess, because I don't think anyone asked us anything. Thanks, guys. Very excited to get started.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks again for being here. Good to see you all again. Just kind of want to piggyback off of what Councilmember Burns said. I think this group is going to be fantastic for the city. They really understand, what we need in terms of brand identity, which is something that's come up over and over again. And, how do we say who we are? And I think that's why they rose to the top, is that they really grasped that. They really listened to us. And yeah, there were 35 candidates. So just want to say that I think this is going to be a really good assessment. And the timing is great too, with bringing on a new communications director. So If there are any questions, yeah, we're here for that, but I think this is going to be really well done. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ditto what my two subcommittee members just mentioned to you all. And I did want to just make sure, and maybe this is more of a question for our city manager. We had a conversation and study session about the banner policy. So I'm wondering if that is going to be in scope or integrated in some shape or form.
The banner policy is coming back to council on March 23rd in order to, so I've drafted an outline of a banner policy based on council direction last meeting. That'll come to council prior to, and we'll receive direction from council. I'm anticipating, I should preface it with that. However, this work with the city brand will definitely and is intended to influence where we go in the future. So the immediate 250, 150 banners are set with design based on council support and feedback, but banners moving forward will be influenced by this work, as well as entryway signage.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess I don't understand, this is being brought up because you have ability to do this under 75,000 without our consulting. So is it because the add-ons could take it over 73 or 75,000 that this needs? I'm trying to educate myself, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question, Councilmember Severs. First and foremost, this project is not budgeted. Secondly, I advanced this project based on consistent feedback from council that we need to pivot. And so it's critically important that I have your buy-in and participation in this process in order for this project to be successful.
And I'll just say that finally, that when I was running around trying to talk to people trying to get elected, I did hear a lot of complaints about purchase services. So as we do not have a comms director currently, and we're going through a transition, I want people to know that it's still on my mind, but we don't have a comms director, so naturally we need, and it's a great time to bring on them while a comms director comes in and starts to understand. Thanks.
If I could, Mayor, I'd just add one more thing to follow what you shared, Councilmember Severs. I have spoken with both candidates for the Director of Communications position, and they're fully aware of this process and what it means in terms of alignment with the timing of the hiring process.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple of questions. I suppose I have to ask, just for the sake of everyone's here, if it's not budgeted, where will the money potentially come from?
And great question, Councilmember Nowicki. It'll come from the general fund. The communications department budget will capture this as an amendment at a future date.
Okay. And since I'm looking at, you're asking us to vote on the 73,000, to kind of go back as I'm looking at the pink portion, that's not included? Those services are not included?
Correct. Those are add-ons. So certainly if council feels strongly about any or one of the add-ons, you can make a motion to amend the contract approval amount with the respective add-on.
Okay. Then I would like to make a motion to amend the add-on with adding on non-English focus groups, particularly Spanish.
I'll second.
So can I ask a clarifying question on that? I just want to make sure I'm looking, because there's translation of a survey, and then there's adding on a focus group. And I sort of have to echo Councilmember Severs, because I also do not love that we hire consultants all the time. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it feels like a waste of money and we're disappointed. So, not that that will be the case here, but adding $9,000 when we just had or $10,000 at the already increased scope of 73, because I didn't expect this to come back as expensive as it is. That was a much higher number. I do understand that the number increased because we're increasing the amount of people that have input the stakeholder interviews. And to kind of go back a little bit, Councilmember Severs, I do feel that these are separate things. So even if we had a communications director, we still put this forward as a need. And it's because we have very inconsistent comms across the city. And it's been a sticking point. It's been a struggle for communication with our residents. It's been a topic of conversation for a bit that we need to do something. So I do believe this assessment is necessary. I'm concerned about the high cost. And so while I want to be inclusive, I'm also concerned about adding thousands of dollars. Like if a translation of a survey could be done in-house, I'm not quite sure why it's $4,000 to translate a survey into Spanish. I'm guessing it's also the translation back. That just seems like a really high price tag. And then to add $9,000 or 10, I don't know. I'm concerned about just adding on because it's already more expensive than I was hoping. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and I wanted to get clarity around Councilmember Nowicki's question, because would you like the survey? Because a focus group is a much more intensive process. Or would you just like, and we're also not doing a focus group in English for our English speakers, so I think the proposition of translating the survey into our other native languages is a better option. Because again, focus groups are very intensive work. And for historical reference, we do okay with survey data sometimes from our residents. Getting people to show up for a focus group we've seen is much more challenging. So also probably hence higher price tags. But I would suggest if we would like to focus on our non-English speaking populations, that we focus on just survey, because that's what we'll be doing for English speakers as well.
And I would agree with that. I think that's a great distinction, and I would agree with that.
Councilmember Leidy.
Okay, to add to both of those things, I may be reading this wrong, and that could totally be me. In the packet, it says on page 6 that we're identifying, or where did it say? I just had it, and then I scrolled. I'm so sorry. Okay, it says we're identifying the gaps in messaging, consistency, accessibility, and reach, but then we have to add on to add the accessibility for the language piece. I think that's where I'm a little confused. I would just like some clarification around that.
So page 6. Sorry, there were multiple page numbers going on here because there's the ones at the bottom and these other ones. I think I have you now. Okay. So you're asking why
if we're going to identify the gap.
Consistency and accessibility, ADA language and reach. Is it okay?
Yeah, so if we're identifying the gap, is that not something that then would just fall under that same scope, and then you would fix the gap?
In regards to the translation? Is that what you're asking about?
I mean, yeah, just across the board.
The translation is an add-on because it has to do with, so if we're talking about the community survey that you just brought up, so part of it, and I'll explain, when we translate, right, it's not yes, it would be very cheap to just do Google Translate and say, they wrote this thing in English, here, how do we say that in Spanish? As you would probably guess, that's not best practice. Spanish-speaking community probably wouldn't, they would see through it, I'm sure, because it comes out messy. What we look for is, what are the idioms that make sense in Spanish that don't make sense in English, right? Because the way that we may ask a question in English, if asked as a pure translation in Spanish, may not just be idiomatically the way that your particular Spanish community members speak. That's another thing, right? Spanish is spoken by a lot of the world, and so the way people speak it here, not necessarily the same as there, something we take into account. But it's also the fact that we are, and this is in the first bullet there, survey coding and programming, right? So there's just back-end work that goes into this too, because it's a different survey than the English one. So that's why it's an add-on. It's like a matter of time, attention, that kind of stuff.
So our current website seems to be compliant, at least with state law, and so we can change the language of our current website. I guess a sticking point for me is $4,600 for a translation. I feel like it's necessary to be inclusive. I'm just really surprised it's that expensive. So I don't know. I do feel like we do need to nitpick a little bit these pennies and not just say, yes, we're doing this. It's a big scope of work, and I guess it's just best practice to translate. So the fact that it's even an add-on is surprising to me. Is that consistent with all the other companies that the committee looked at? Like they all have translation as an add-on? Yeah.
Yes, and one of the reasons we went with Joyride as well is because they had included interviewing, like the interviews and stuff, all in the upfront costs, because whenever we were comparing prices, a lot of the applicants had interviews with us as, $20K add-ons, survey data, even more, just like everything was an add-on, so everything, the price was pretty blanketed the same across the way. And I think when we talk about surveys like this, it's more than a survey monkey, like for a statistical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And to speak to Councilmember Leidy's question, to switch my hats a little bit. So understanding when we're going through this process, understanding that we can have a finding that we don't do enough in Spanish without reaching out to that community, right? So the gap analysis is to then find that gap, and then we can probably see surface level, we don't do enough translation. We are missing XYZ. Should we do our Facebook posts in Spanish as well, right? And I think we can easily find, that's what a gap analysis is, right? And then from that, they will present us with solutions. And would it be even more helpful to hear from the communities in those languages as well? What else is missing? Yes, but I think at a surface level, even we know where we're missing that kind of information, where we have been missing that kind of information. So that is the difference of identifying the gaps and then problem solving. Does that make sense? Yes, okay, great.
I love your multiple hats. Thank you so much.
Mayor Pro Tem?
That was just well said, Councilmember Burns. To add on to that too, again, this is an assessment, right, to identify those gaps. I don't want to repeat everything you said. And we will be hiring a comms director. And I assume that a lot of that will then be taken over. I mean, that's the whole point, is to get somebody, or to get it set up so that this continue, right? I forgot the three things that you said you do. It's
Start, stop, continue, yeah.
Start, stop, continue. So that'll be that continue portion, I think. And, and maybe that's where we do more of that in-house, to the mayor's point of sending out, creating more surveys and getting more grassroots involvement and whatnot. But again, I don't want to repeat what Councilmember Burns, because she said it so perfectly, but that's what that stop gap analysis should be. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. The other thing I had a question about was, did the committee look at any local agencies?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Because the cost of travel is built into this as well, which is frustrating. It's understandable. It's just if we had selected a local agency, that wouldn't have been in there. I'm looking, there's two things. There's the scope of work that's like got pink all the way through it. And then there's the out of scope services and hard costs. And they seem to not be the same, or like one is a little more detailed than the other. It doesn't seem to be called out as specifically with the social media component, and I'm assuming the committee talked about that's a clear focus. Because I know Councilmember Burns has a lot of concerns about, we have, 8 million Facebook pages in the city. And I'm really hoping that we take a look at not only the city's Facebook page, but also all of our police department comms as well. Is that, all of those are going to be included?
Yes, we'll be looking at social media. So when we talk about those costs that are not already baked in, right, those hard costs, that's like stuff that is currently just outside of the box. So that would be if you said, hey, we want you guys to take over our social media. Okay, we didn't provide a cost for that, right? That would be if we decided that in the middle of this, we need to film a video and get a production crew out here and everything. We didn't account for that. So the others that you're talking about, those are the optional add-ons that we have spoken about, like, well, what if we did Pashtel, this kind of thing, that we wanted to call your attention to, but those other hard costs are just things that right now, we're just saying, hey, if this comes up, we have to discuss that separately. That's all that is. And yes, we will be looking at social media.
Okay.
Mayor, specifically, if you look on page 6 of 23, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 8th bullet up from the bottom, where we have identified best practices in government communications, branding, and digital engagement. That's intended to capture the social media.
I just want to make sure it captures all departments and not just the main one, but also the police department and any other forward-facing, city-connected social media.
Absolutely. And as I've shared with council previously, as part of this transition, I set up an internal marketing committee made up of all the different stakeholders that you see that'll be engaged through this process. They all are under the understanding that everything's being looked at, everything is on the table. And I have already shared that we do have too many social media pages. And by the end of this process, we will not have that same number. So staff's fully aware of that and prepared and understanding that there's going to have to be some decisions made along the way. Not only being open to feedback and guidance from Joy Riot, but also based on decisions given our centralized and yet decentralized approach or structure that we have. Some of that is probably going to look different by the end of this based on the recommendations. So I initiated those discussions and have been preparing staff along the way.
And I'm assuming that all of this information and likely the interviews will bring this out, but that it will all be sort of filtered through our core values as a city to make sure that we're in alignment. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to add to, we interviewed for 8 hours that day. It was a very long day, and believe me when I say we asked all the questions, and especially relating to what we want to see, what we feel is missing in our community. But I think City Manager Geyer addressed it, that in terms of the police, I'm trying to scroll here. In terms of the police department, trying to scroll a non-touch screen, they're the second group of stakeholders. That was super important as well. But to answer the question, and it's a valid one, because we had to really buckle down and think about it as well, hiring local versus outside local. We understand that. But as was mentioned, sometimes we do these surveys and then, or these, hire consultants, and then we don't really implement, or we're not happy with the results. So that was something we were really trying to weigh in terms of local communication strategists versus non-local, and they just kept coming out on top in terms of the types of questions that we answered. And we asked lots of questions. Councilmember Burns, being our resident expert, had all the techie questions. So I just want to say, it is what it is, but that was definitely something we considered and we struggled with, but they came out on top regardless. Even, and then the add-ons to it kind of would have balanced itself out in some way, so.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, same brain. I was going to say, we weighed heavily on this choice. And I just, for the public's clarity, the purpose of this is to help assess internal structure as well as brand identity, and just make sure that we are modernizing the city in a way that is, I say this all the time, but future-proofing, right? And it's about attracting new business. It's about what is the best for the city, that we're attracting residents, businesses. People want to spend their time and money here, and a lot of that has to do with marketing and branding. And that is so important and so crucial to the future of the city and our economic development. And that is part of the reason why we went with Joy Riot. And also, this is an assessment that is then, again, it's 16 weeks, and we made a very clear distinction of that in our RFP, that this is a short-term project, which then the internal team can grow and iterate on and learn. So this is a learning moment for then the city to continue to grow from and iterate on internally. Thank you.
So going back to the final recommendation, I trust the committee. I thank you for your work, and I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to be an assessment that's going to give us positive results that'll help us move forward. I will say I heard the recommendation for the additional $4,600 for the translation. I'm very disappointed that it's an add-on. I just don't think that's best practice in business. It's going to cost us $4,600 to do, I think, what's best for a community that is 38% Spanish speaking, so, or at least Hispanic. That doesn't make me happy, but I support Councilmember Nowicki's recommendation that we add it on.
Can I make a suggestion, Mayor? Excuse me. So what I can do, in light of your feedback, and if other members of council feel the same way, I can relook at the scope, add the add-on in, and then I'll likely need to reduce, say, possibly one travel touch point, and I can probably combine a couple of the stakeholder groups. So all that to say, I will rework the scope as presented tonight to include the add-on, and again, keeping the do not to exceed the amount that's in the memorandum, if you want to go forward that way.
I think my feedback is more about business practice. I wish it wasn't an add-on to begin with. I think it's important to us, and we need to hold true to that value. And so if council wants to spend an additional $4,600, we certainly can. I just think it's disappointing that we have to. That's all I'm saying.
Understood. But there's an option
Burns?
for you if you want.
I think my hand was just still up.
What? Oh, it was still up?
Yeah.
Okay. So is everyone okay adding the cost? So it goes from 73 to, do we need to have a motion to increase that? Change the motion on the resolution?
What I'm hearing is, I still think you have a decision to be made between what City Manager Geyer recommended and doing it as a true add-on. If it's a true add-on, then Councilmember Nowicki's motion was appropriate.
Do you want to make a motion for an additional amount?
I'll just make a motion for the additional amount in the amount of $4,600 taking the total up to $77,712.
Second the motion.
So then you're voting on the amendment first, which is the additional, the add-on.
So the motion on the floor is the amendment. Councilmember Burns?
Sorry, we are just ignoring City Manager Geyer's option of folding it in.
Unless you want to also recommend that now. I was just going with Councilmember Nowicki's motion.
I mean, if we want to save the $4,600, we can go back to the 73 with City Manager Geyer's option. Is that correct?
Yeah, those are the choices. That's why.
Okay, then why can't we do that? Why?
I'm cool with that.
We
Okay.
certainly can.
Yeah.
I think less stakeholder interviews is completely fine. I'm totally fine buddying up on council. Like, I think like we can do that to reduce some meetings as well, right, team?
Well, and perhaps one visit could be virtual instead of travel costs. I don't know how many were built in. Councilmember Leidy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was hoping to kind of circle back to what you had mentioned about folding it in. And I would be happy to buddy up with you. As someone that's brand new, I also don't really know if I would like to have my own stakeholder one-on-one interview when I have no idea what I'm supposed to be talking about. So I think it would be awesome to be paired up with my senior member. Do we need to make an amendment there? Or are we good?
Yes.
So,
So I just want to assure you, so I'm with what City Manager Geyer said. We can find a way to fold it in. That doesn't have to be figured out now. We would love to hear your opinions, and I will say, as far as best practices go, it helps if it's one-on-one, just, people just share what's on their mind instead of, so, but regardless, we can find a way to fold this in one way or another, so.
Okay, so we're going to fold it in. We're going to do the add-on. And the motion stands as the full cost.
yeah, so Councilmember
73.
Nowicki can withdraw his
Yes.
motion.
I withdraw my motion.
We're going to stick with the 73,112 is now on the table. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Goff, for sticking with us.
I will close that vote, and CR 46 passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CR 54, will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving an agricultural lease agreement between the City of Northglenn and Matthew Holstrom for the use of approximately 210 acres of city-owned property located adjacent to the Northglenn wastewater treatment plant for agricultural purposes.
Motion to approve.
Second. Director of Public Works, Sarah Borders is here to provide a summary. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It's lovely to be with you tonight. This is an interesting resolution, not one we do very often. This is to do an agricultural lease with a farmer. He's been on this property for quite some time. There's about 210 acres in the vicinity of the wastewater plant up in Section 36. And he farms that land, and there's a few reasons that's good for us and also good for him. It's good for us just because he continues to maintain that property in a good working order. We're also able to land apply biosolids from the wastewater plant. You apply the biosolids, the plants take up the nutrients, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus, and it's just an environmentally friendly way of getting rid of biosolids. This year, we may not be able to use the fields that much because we need the plants to take up a little bit more nutrients before. So you will still see, later on, you'll see a agreement to do a biosolids removal project from the plant, from the facilities around the plant. So this won't be all, but that facility with these farms, we can get rid of the biosolids, maintain our property. We do give the farmer some water as a part of this, and in return, he also gives us 10% of revenue. I'm happy to answer questions.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that we have the sewer line connection project that's going on to allow for North Metro to connect to the sewer treatment plant. And my understanding is, in the process of running across that, we kind of discovered some of the feeder lines. I'm assuming those lines that we discovered are indeed the way that we provide the water to the farmer?
Yes, sir. Yep, there are 14-inch water lines that go to a pond, and that pond is what feeds their center pivot.
Okay. And I also understand that those lines weren't exactly well documented. So I'm just wanting to know if in the future we will know where those lines are.
We do know exactly where they are now.
Yeah.
And we do have upcoming projects to do work up at the wastewater plant, and some of that work is going to be to identify all of the underground infrastructure. You can imagine there's quite a bit of underground piping going between all the different facilities on that site, and it gets complicated, and some of it is quite old. And so part of that project will be to identify where all that infrastructure is so that we don't run into the same problem again.
Gotcha. Well, I do appreciate, and I'm not speaking on behalf of North Metro, I'll just say that in our last board meeting, Northglenn was very accommodating when we did discover these lines, and I want to thank you for being so flexible and understanding. Thank you.
Metro is a good partner.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say this is pretty cool. This is like a cool thing. Like, it's like awesome. Like, I think it's like pretty, like, it's innovative. It's like community driven and like community first. And like, I don't know, I'm like obsessed with this. So I love it. Thank you. That's it.
Agreed. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 54 passes unanimously.
CR 55, will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and Just BU Incorporated doing business as Star Playgrounds for the Danahy Park renovation project.
Move for approval.
Seconded.
Recreation Project Manager. Hello, Jesse Mestrovic will provide a summary of this item.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, constituents. This project is a renovation of Danahy Park. That consists of a brand new playground, new pour-in-place safety surfacing, the shelter replacement, all the site amenities, which includes picnic tables, benches, trash cans. This playground was installed in 2012. So our typical life cycle is about 15 years, so it's approaching that. This playground is showing significant wear, especially in the pour-in-place surface area. The shelter is about 4 decades old, so a little bit older than me, so that's pretty old and needs to be replaced. We had community members had the opportunity to weigh in on 6 different playground options. They unanimously chose this playground. Pretty excited about that. This playground consists of shade, swings, multiple slides, and a really tall playground tower. So it'll be a new, unique amenity there. We utilize cooperative purchasing process through the vendor procurement process. We identified Star Playgrounds as the right vendor based on pricing, qualifications, and their approach. This playground cost $900,000 and $600,000 that came from the Adams County Open Space Sales Tax grant. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Leidy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. I was just looking, and it says in like the little background section that you will be improving the accessibility. Is this playground accessible to individuals in wheelchairs?
So it doesn't have a ramp. However, there is transfer areas where people can transfer onto them and experience the playground themselves. The safety surfacing, instead of having the engineered wood fiber mulch, You can roll right on it. You can be able to transfer quite easily. The only element, it doesn't have the ramps because those really cost a lot of money. So this was the route that we chose.
What about a swing?
Oh yeah, there'll be swings.
Wait, no, like an accessible swing.
Not like EB Reigns.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for bringing this forward. As a Ward 4 representative, I don't want to put words in Councilmember Roper's mouth, but this playground really needed it, and it is such an activated playground. Every time I drive by, there's tons of kids always out there, families using all of the things there. So I'm kind of glad that the community chose this playground because it really needed it, and it's well used, and it just needs some TLC. So glad to hear that's happening. Thank you.
A new playground is always a wonderful thing, right? It's hard to not get excited about that. I do, however, appreciate Councilmember Leidy's question, and I'm wondering if we have I'm looking past you at Amanda, because I'm wondering if we have like a long-term vision, perhaps, of having fully ADA accessible play in each ward. So having it in one location is great, but I think having it, we talk about having walkable parks, but to have more than one, I think would be awesome.
Yes. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Peterson, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. So the playground that has been selected is fully ADA compliant. What it does not have, as Councilmember Leidy was referring us to, is some additional elements like we have at Sensory Playground that allow for a transfer without exiting a chair, and some additional play features like a swing. So we would love to be able to do that as we move forward. We have that as a priority in Playbook to assess ADA compliance and be able to exceed that at our park spaces. So that is definitely a consideration as we move forward. And Jesse can certainly look at whether or not we can, there's some tricks with being able to fit a ADA compliant swing in a bay with other swings. You can only have one type per bay, and we have a constrained area that we're working with on this particular park space. We are not disrupting the perimeter of the playground, so we needed to have designs that all fit within that existing perimeter. But we can still look at that swing and see if there's any opportunity still to add an additional ADA element, as I said, in addition to what is there and meeting at a minimum the compliance regulation.
Yeah, I had no doubt that it was compliant. I think it's, accessible and enjoyable is a different thing. And so knowing that it's in the playbook is a good step forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it forward. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 55 passes unanimously.
CR 57, will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Northglenn and Xcel Energy for the Phase 2 plan implementation of the beneficial electrification roadmap through the Partners in Energy program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Well, we'd like to welcome our Sustainability Coordinator, Mara Owen. Hello.
Mayor, Council, glad to be here tonight. It's just been a good meeting so far. You haven't gotten a lot done. I am here to essentially present the CR 57, which is, again, looking at an MOU with Partners in Energy. We've worked with Xcel Energy's Partners in Energy before on both an energy action plan, an EV action plan. We are now working under hopefully we'll be working under phase 2 of a beneficial electrification plan. We actually, back in August of 2025, brought forward to you phase 1, which is looking at a beneficial electrification plan implementing our climate action and resilience plan. So that plan looked at a lot of different strategies. Several of them were looking at beneficial electrification. And so we said, where is there existing dollars, existing support to be able to make this happen, knowing that we are trying to make things work under budgets. And so Partners in Energy was a really amazing program, still is. and finish that. So you'll see in attachment 1, we actually have a fully done city beneficial electrification roadmap, which very clearly points out how it is implementing our climate action and resilience plan. This is the process. This is the result of a process that went through several different community engagement processes, especially with partners including Adams Schools, Adams 5 Stars. Anyway, I'm working on that. It's too many different pieces together, and including a lot of people from a lot of other partners, including Adams County itself. We are actually having 9 different strategies organized into 4 focus areas. So it's in residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial, municipal, and then workforce development. All of those pieces work together to actually allow us to, again, implement many of those strategies that we already put in the existing climate action resilience plan. The MOU for this is actually working on phase 2, which is the more exciting part, which is implementation. So we've focused, many of the beneficial electrification plans that have happened are more plan focused. This is more implementation focused. So we spent all of our, not all of our, but much of our time looking at how this could be really clearly implemented. And so from April 2026 through March 31st of 2027, we'll be spending the next 12 months, if you approve this phase 2, to actually implement the things that we put out here. And that's really exciting because it actually allows us, if you look at the page 46 of the council resolution, significant process on our climate action and resilience goals, quantifiable. They'll actually be giving us a lot of the, this is how much you have saved in both greenhouse gas emissions as well as some of our resilience benefits. This is exciting work to be able to actually say we're implementing a plan that we put in place not only just last year in April. So this is exciting. Let me know if you have any questions, and otherwise I will be here.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for this initiative, as well as many others. And, you know, I'm really delighted that Ms. Owens is really on our staff doing a lot of great value creation in the area of sustainability. You're nodding your head. But I can tell you that there is a lot of work that goes on in background. And not only is she doing it for the city of Northglenn, but she also does it for Dr. Cog, which is an organization that represents 59 municipalities and counties. And so you played a key role, obviously, for the EPA grant. I know you're going to deny it, but I know otherwise. And so definitely the work that you're doing here to try and push the city forward to transitioning to more renewables and doing it in a way where we're collecting data and having some metrics around that, I think is really admirable. And I just want to say, keep up the good work. Thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you so much. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 57 passes unanimously.
CR 58. Will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution affirming the city's commitment to compliance with federal anti-discrimination laws.
Motion to approve?
Seconded.
City Attorney Corey Hoffman will provide a summary of this item.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. There has been a lot of discussion citywide, statewide, and nationwide about what DEI means relative to grant applications at the federal level. And the federal government has made it abundantly clear that one of the requirements for grant eligibility and grant compliance is that a grant recipient not have a DEI program that operates to discriminate in hiring practices in violation of the federal civil rights laws. And so this resolution is intended to clarify how Northglenn implements DEI as part of its strategic plan, as part of its internal policies, and confirms that it does so in a manner that does not violate federal non-discrimination laws.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 58 passes unanimously.
CR 59, will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing an independent hearing officer for the City of Northglenn for ethics complaints.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thanks. City Attorney Hoffman will provide a summary of this item.
So in 2007, the city of Northglenn adopted a code of ethics. That code of ethics requires that the city appoint an independent hearing officer if it ever receives an ethics complaint. And the city has received an ethics complaint, which triggers the appointment of an independent hearing officer. That hearing officer can make a determination related to that ethics complaint, and if it requires action beyond the independent hearing officer's determination, that hearing officer would exercise his or her discretion to do so. So this simply appoints the hearing officer that is contemplated by the ordinance that was adopted in 2007 that is necessary for the first time. And the recommendation is to appoint Jeff Wilson. He is he is formerly the attorney for the Colorado Municipal League, currently is in private practice, does not have any other affiliation with Northglenn, and so would truly be an independent hearing officer.
Any questions from council? Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Goff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 59 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have a discussion item tonight, Vera Mobility Automated Speed Traffic Enforcement Cameras. Deputy Chief of Police Peter Rice will present this item to council. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is Alex from Vera Mobility. So she flew out from Arizona today so that by the off chance I can't answer any questions in the weeds on speed enforcement cameras, she's the guru. As this is her neck of the woods, along with the 16 other municipalities that currently have her company's services. So everybody, this is Alex.
Hello.
Good evening. All right, so for those that weren't on council, and we'll recap to kind of how we got here. So former Deputy Chief of Police Randy Darlin presented last May on automated traffic speed enforcement, and we sent it out for an RFP, which closed just short after the 4th of July. And 3 companies put in. We did a staff analysis of the different companies. And in about mid-August, we decided to go with Vera Mobility for a multitude of reasons. Mainly the cost not occurring any from us, from the city side, and their ability to have an all-inclusive package from the ticket through the court system, for them to manage everything, for them to have the bridge to communicate with the violator, and with as far as the funds from the financial aspect, they were all-inclusive. They'll do the construction, the build-out, their responsiveness. They've been great so far in their ability to communicate with us. And like I said, the numerous municipalities that are already utilizing their services in the state have sung their praises. We reached out to numerous agencies to get feedback on how it's working for them, some potential pitfalls, and things of that. So that's kind of how we got to here. I reached out to Alex to follow up in late fall. We received the contract, and then I started working with the city attorney, Hoffman, as far as timelines to get us to here. Now, back when this was first initiated, we did 5 speed studies and trying to figure out, where the community impact, where would it be most beneficial, what was the rationale behind the different locations in which we used. Those being both directions, 120th, 112th, 104th, Melody, and what is that? 112th, 104th. Sorry, I'm losing my 120th, 104th. Oh, Irma, sorry. And I added, we did another one recently to refresh it, which is in your packet. I added Huron. Now, reason for those locations, it has to do with the public safety piece, right? And where those arteries go, and mainly due to traffic accidents. And the speeds, right? So if well, let's take 104th as an example. The speeds coming into the city, and which is reason why I also added, I wanted to take a look at the data on Huron. Our highest traffic accident location historically, and still continues to be 104th in Huron. And if you look at the data coming into the city eastbound, that's our biggest violator area, right? So I want to slow people down coming into the city. And another one of our major areas is on 112th, right? And there you're talking about a roadway that goes, right, if you're traveling eastbound, right, is the road narrows from 2 lanes to 1. We've had some incidents there with the pedestrian walkway and then going into Irma, not to mention the fact that we have our middle school just to the south there off of Larson, right? So the method to the madness as far as why these locations is they're on our main arteries, they're our most highly traveled, the speeds are greater, and they flow into high traffic accident areas, which in turn will free up officers. We wanted to, there's value to having officers present. When you look at the amount of schools that we have inside the city, there is having the police interact with the public in the schools, enforcing school zones, whether it's crosswalks and that, there's a value to that. And we didn't want to take that away from those. Coupled then with safety sensitive zones. So when you take a look at the real estate and the footprint that all of the schools, the school zones, and the safety sensitive zones impact, it starts to narrow down the major arteries and thoroughfares. Additionally, if you look at Melody, right, historically one of our larger traffic complaint areas, and the reason why that's shaded in red is it doesn't meet the threshold to get over the $2,500. So it would cost the city money if you were to have fixed radar on that. So that's where that comes from. Not saying we've abolished speeding on Melody by any means, or any of the arteries in the city. But that was the reason why those main roadways were chosen first. as this will be kind of an evolution in progress here. Corey has worked on the compliance with the ordinances. With that being said, I'll touch on this slightly, and then we'll go back to it when we wrap up as far as the decisions and next steps. There is lots, as you alluded to earlier, there's lots of legislation that also, not only cameras, affects traffic enforcement, automated speed cameras as well, that is currently in legislation too, that can impact this discussion that was brought forward. As I talked about, cost, Verra Mobility manages everything once we get over the threshold of the $2,500, and they'll do all the installation, maintenance. Someone drives their car through the sign or through the cameras or whatever it might be, they come out and they replace the infrastructure for that. So these were the locations that we discussed as staff that we are asking to push, or we're recommending to push forward at this time. So we understand it as the community. Why isn't it in my street? Why is it in my neighborhood? The rationale behind these, one is, as I previously mentioned, on 104th. The volume is massive, and it's meant to slow people down and try to lessen the amount of traffic accidents that we're having at 104th and Huron. And if you look over the data from our traffic studies over the last 2 years, right, we've decreased traffic accidents 11% in the city, which is huge. But we've also increased the issuance of traffic-related motor offenses by 57%. Right, so you can make a correlation that the more that we're out there, the more that we're enforcing, we're slowing folks down, and we're getting compliance. And then with 112, those three cameras, so we're doing east-west on 104th, and then eastbound on 112th. And if you look at the numbers on the Excel spreadsheet, and you look at the volume, that is why we want to, right now, we want to just take this kind of one bite at a time and evaluate this and take some time and evaluate it. Because once we implement the systems, they're going to run, and they're going to run 24/7. And the sheer volume of those three cameras could potentially be a very heavy lift for staff. So we don't want to get the cart before the horse and put cameras at locations that we can't keep up with the volume, excuse me, of monitoring the computers and monitoring all of the summons that are in there, because we're not asking for supplemental employees, right, to manage this at this time. So we can, the program is fully capable of expanding, but these are the three locations that we want to start off with, because this program, as I've learned over the last several months being involved, affects a great many portions of the city. It's not just the police department. This affects our courts. And as I just said, right, we've upped our issuance of traffic tickets by 57%. So now you have to add the volume of traffic to the courts. Public Works will work with to pull the permits because they have to tap into power. We have to work with finance. I've worked with Jason, and I are trying to figure out what's the best course of action for the fines and forfeitures from that piece. And then obviously you have to have the police department, or at least our plan is right now, for police department staff to log into the system and have to clear the hundreds and hundreds of tickets that come in daily by that. And there's a verification process that has to take place in that. So that was the rationale for those locations. These were, and you could see the sheer volume on the 3 locations that we did, and these were only for 3 days, right? So that's heavy traffic. Everything will be at 10 miles an hour over. So you look at 85% of the vehicles are complying with the 10 miles an hour over. Again, some of that stuff that's statutory, written as far as the speeds. But again, these are the locations that we have high volume in which we want to try to, the goal, right, is to curb the behavior and change it through time. And with the data that you have, that's for a month, right, in the Excel spreadsheet. And where it says 5%, we receive data from Bear Mobility at 10% as well. So the numbers that I gave you were intentionally lower than the high, right? So we're not, because they have shown over time there is a decrease. And you can correlate it to some of the conversations we've had about signage with safety sensitive zones and slowing traffic down. And they have the data that's in there, right, to show that through time, whether it's typically about the 9 to 12 month mark, you will see more of the consistent drop in the speeding behavior. So the mobile system, okay, so this is thinking down the road. If when we can reevaluate things after 6 to 9 months, if we can manage the amount of volume of tickets, and we're doing well, and we've worked out with courts, and we've kind of focused on that and got our way through it, the mobile system can be set in place. Variable mobility does they do the movement for us. It can go in a location for a month, and then we can move it to different portions of the city. And we are creating a process because we understand that the questions are going to be, well, who gets it first? What happens next? So from a staff perspective, in correlation with some of the programs that we already have in the city, with no need for speed and things that our traffic team might say that there's an increase here, in working with that. This ability to add this, that's all it is, and they'll bring it out. So once we get to it, but again, right now it's just can we manage it? And then Vera Mobility can add it, and because it's already in the contract, should we choose to move forward tonight. That allows us a lot of opportunity to get it to throughout the city to various issues that might come in, because multiple things can change traffic patterns, whether it's construction in one area or whatever, and we're noticing an influx, then we can deploy it to different aspects of the city. So as we said, Vera Mobility, that's the cost, and $7 a citation. That includes all of the back end stuff, all of the issuance of the ticket, contacting the registered owner. That's their fee out of it, and then they take the $2,500 out of the fines and forfeitures that they receive. Now, here's a pretty comprehensive list of what comes with Vera Mobility. Now, we understand that cameras right now in the community are kind of a hot topic, and the legislation that's down at the state. The way that the ordinance is written right now, the registered owner should, my daughter be driving my car and get it, and I get the ticket for it, I can upload my driver's license, and then the fine is dismissed. Okay, because that is the way that the ordinance is written. One of the legislative bills that is being looked at right now is to change that, so regardless, it's the registered owner of the vehicle. Whether you're driving it or not, you're responsible for your car. So that could change things. So because of the registered owner piece, it takes a picture from the front and it takes a picture from the rear. So it captures the face of the driver. We own the data. We do not communicate or transmit or share any of the data with any other agency. It only captures speed violators. It does not capture every single motor vehicle that passes the cameras. And if it is deemed to not be a match and it's going to be dismissed on the retention schedule, which we will set up, those will be or can be expunged from the database within 30 days. Okay, so I just want to make that clear, especially for the community, that this is not a sharing of data. It's not a sharing of faces or pictures. That is part of the statutory, how it's written, so that if you're not the registered owner, you can have it dismissed as it sits here today. But again, it's currently in legislation. Why do we want this, or why would it be extremely beneficial for us? Again, if we can get a lot of the traffic to slow down coming into the city, curb the behavior, stop traffic accidents, right? We've heard 2 council members talk tonight about traffic accidents and how it can change folks' lives, right? For the more that we can stop that, I know that we be nice to completely get it away from people having to deal with it, but it impacts more not only physically, mentally, but when folks lose their cars, a lot of times they lose their ability to get to their job, and it just keeps continuing to compound a problem. So if we can enhance traffic safety, it's huge. And like I said, for this thing will run 24/7, 365. That frees up officers to be in neighborhoods and work different aspects of the city, especially with the traffic team, to be where our most vulnerable are, which is the school zones with the kids. So that definitely frees up some resources there. So should we choose to move forward tonight, Corey and I had spoken earlier. We have a couple next steps. We have the ordinance drafted, and we have the contract. And tentatively 2 weeks from today, we could be back and have the first reading of the ordinance and move the contractor. Or we just delayed another month since there is so much legislation focused right now on camera systems so that we wouldn't have to, if we had to make changes, and Corey, I don't know if you want to say anything on that piece too. Just to since we're so close essentially with the legislative session, for the sake of a month, if that's something that you would like to see done, then this way we don't have to come back and change. And Corey, if you want to add anything to that.
The only thing I would add is if council is inclined to do this, we don't know what any of the legislation is going to be yet regarding kind of the privacy interest, but we do know there's pending legislation, for example, to allow the expansion of the use of these onto I-25. Right now, that's prohibited. So if council wanted to consider that as part of it, that's something it can't do today, but I think it's likely that that will get adopted as part of this legislative session. So really the question is, if, again, the council is inclined to do this, does first reading go on March 23rd, or do you wait till, for example, April 27th, in which case second reading would be around the time the legislature finished its work for 2026, and you'd have a little more certainty that what Northglenn was adopting was not going to be changed by legislation this year.
And from the Vera Mobility side, from what they're, the portion of removing the registered owner piece, where the registered owner and not needing the photo seems promising, which in turn then for us, we wouldn't have to capture the forward facing and we wouldn't have to capture the driver's face, just needing the rear, which then instead of $1,500 per camera, it goes down to, or 25, it goes down to 1,500. So, but again, that's certainly out of my hands. That's down in the legislation. So that could change as well. All right. Questions, should you have any?
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Miss Alex, welcome to Colorado. Probably feels like Arizona in the winter, which is odd. I actually lived in Arizona for a number of years, and I just remember, I think, Paradise Valley. I don't know if Vera Mobility has ties to that. I think they started in 1987. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the first program in the country that adopted automated enforcement.
Gotcha. Do you also do the red light and speed cameras in Scottsdale now? Okay, great. The reason why I'm asking these questions is, well, I haven't had a ticket yet, but I've seen it. But I do have a few questions. One, just kind of looking at the websites for both Paradise Valley and Scottsdale, are these integrated stoplight and speeding cameras? In other words,
Stoplight. No stoplight, speed
okay,
only.
so we're just talking about a camera that's in between intersections somewhere that's going to catch a speeder.
Where the locations are that we've identified, so on 104th, the cameras will be, if the logistics work out with power, it will be in the center median, right next to each other, catching east and westbound traffic. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Check.
Right, so it'll be west of Huron. Okay. Right. So there. And then now eastbound 112, the cameras will have to be on the south side of the roadway.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're providing that clarity.
Not red light.
Yeah, because I know that, at least speaking with some of my former neighbors in Arizona in the valley, there was concerns about having the cameras at an intersection and maybe an increase in rear end accidents and things like that.
That's actually a huge reason why we don't want them.
Check.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to stop on that line of questioning. But obviously, I think the desire here ultimately is to modify driver behavior, so hopefully they will slow down. I wonder if you have any anecdotes that you might be able to share, given some systems that you have? It doesn't have to be Arizona, but anywhere.
Madam Mayor, council members, nice to meet you all. So I've been with Vera Mobility for almost 18 years, probably too long for the same job, but as long as I've been with the company, we're seeing significant reduction in speeding. The reason why Deputy Chief Rice used that reduction is because nationwide, we're seeing between a 90 to 95% reduction in speeding from the survey results to that 9 to 12 month timeframe when we consider the system being somewhat mature and stable within a program.
Gotcha. And it sounds like the Deputy Rice, that or Alex, your company handles the whole thing cradle to grave, from when the violation happens, the assessment, and then mailing the wonderful postcard, "Welcome to Scottsdale, you've exceeded the speed limit."
Correct, and that was done, that's being done by design to assist staff in a lot of the neighboring agencies that we've communicated with have advised us to do that because it's efficient. They obviously have it down to a science. It's what they do for a living. And especially from the court side of things, just to make things as streamlined as possible.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. I have not received a Welcome to Scottsdale postcard, but thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Councilmember Leidy.
Thank you. Okay, so I made a list, and then I felt like you were reading from my list, because at one point you brought up the middle school, and I was like, oh, when I was in middle school, there was a kid that was hit by a speeder on Larson Drive, on 112th and Larson Drive, and that's when they put that stoplight in. And so this is kind of just like it's going all over the place in my brain. And I want to touch back to a thing that I heard the most from residents in that neighborhood specifically. 112th is turned into a racetrack, is what they say. They complain that it's a lot like 104th. And I mean, living in between both of those, I understand that. And then I was also thinking, as this could be a good idea, as we have potential for more housing on 112th. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the giant roundabout that they just put further down on 112th and Thornton. So I do think that this is a little bit better than a roundabout that people might crash into. I do have a few questions though, just because you mentioned that this would open up some officer time, and then you kind of went back on, but the technology might take over officer time. Is there, or not officer time, but who would be managing the system?
Oh, yeah. Well, right now, we have, and this isn't a permanent solution, our officers that are on light duty, right? That is part of their, well, it's going to be part of their daily job duties. Again, how much time? There's a lot of this data, right? So we've heard from some of the neighbor, if you speak to Vera Mobility or the cops that are having to do it, to clear a summons, meaning, right, so it's on, we see your face, registered owner, it matches the license plate, boom, we hit, is between 30 seconds and a minute per summons. Right, so when you're just, right, for basic math's sake, when you start to get up to 240 summons daily, right, and how many man hours that's going to take, that's why I don't want to get us too far out in front of what it is. Part of the long-term goal, and if we have to, there are neighboring agencies that use, for example, he's on our CCPP board. He's a former chief of police, and he actually clears tickets part-time for the city of Thornton. Right, so they have it as well, and So there are long-term things where it comes to that, but as of right now, we have some light-duty folks that are going to be down for a while, and this will just be worked into, right, because they do administrative stuff around the police department all the time. And unfortunately, some of the injuries, they're going to be out for a while, so I'm not worried about the short-term problem. We'll be able to manage that, and then we'll be able to reassess. And if we have to move something forward whether it's contractually or for part-time to clear it, and we can reassess that down the road.
And then just one more question, just because I know that you mentioned it, it is a hot topic of people aren't necessarily wanting to be recorded, but it's not a stoplight camera, but you kind of connected it to that, so it would be like when you go through, I think there's one in Commerce City, if you were to go through a red light and it takes the picture, I'm assuming they don't send that automatically to a random place. Like my picture is not just going to some random bubble in the world. It's going straight to the police department, and then that's when you guys would do the summons and all the clearing and all the fun things like that?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, sorry for the confusion. These are not red light cameras. They're not going to be attached to the poles at red light cameras. We're not going to have people looking up in the middle of an intersection, distracting them in that and creating more. This is away from those. It's not attached to this, especially the one in 104th. It's as the next light you will see, it will be here on. So the goal is to, right, the speed limit is only 35 there. And when you look at the sheer volume of folks that are doing plenty more than that coming into the city, that's the behavior that we want to try to curb.
Would that also eliminate the lack of hiding spots for the officers to get those speeding tickets? I feel like Fox Run there, it's a racetrack, but you can't hide anywhere on Fox Run Parkway.
They'll find some places to do their stuff. I'll get there.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, I have a few questions. Okay, so this is essentially a subscription-based service, correct?
5 years, right? 5-year contract, yep.
Okay, so it's a subscription for $2,500 a month plus $7, or I guess $5,000, right? $5,000 a month plus service fees of whatever. Is that,
Right,
am I
it
reading
depends.
that
If
correct?
it's 3 cameras, it's $7,500. Right, plus so it's 33. So if you look at the Excel spreadsheet, the number on the far right, that's after all of the fees, and that's a monthly total. After all of the fees and all of the stuff is taken out.
So we're losing $2,000, am I reading this? We're
You're-
gaining $2,000 a month? What is
Which
this
one are you
saying
on?
to me? What is this 2,000?
Which one are you on?
Attachment 2, page 17 of 22, page 17 in our packet, this giant spreadsheet. You got to really expand the screen to see
Look
all
on
the
the
cells.
far right where it has
City net revenue.
city net revenue. That's monthly totals. The one that's in red is Melody. So yes, that would be a loss to the city, which is why we're not doing that.
We're anticipating making $31,000.
On one camera.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not done. Sorry, that was not a period. That was a semicolon. Okay, so on the Vera Mobility Provide slide, 13 of 22, I'm very interested in just like the sheer amount of comms on this, like website content, PR, like promotional stuff. Obviously, I'm thinking about this. Would love to hear more about what that looks like and like how would this then integrate, would their services then integrate with our assessment, new comms director? Like what is the vibe here?
So we statutorily, we're going to have to notify the community once we go to this. So, and there's the 30-day warning period. So obviously, in light of the previous discussion, how we choose to ultimately push out that we're implementing these cameras, we can certainly work with the city side. They just have it, right? Because they've also had to do it for municipalities all over the country. That they have a team that explains what it is, certainly in light of today's discussions, it says what it's not, with some of the other camera-based systems that are out there, right, to dispel the rumors and that. But those are things that we have discussed as far as when we get close to implementation, what does it look like when we notify the community? Because there are things that we have to do statutorily to notify them. And even upon implementation, right, there's a 30-day period where you're just going to receive a warning in the mail. And then, hey, next time this is real. Kind of like what they did on I-25 with the hub lanes. When you cross, you got warnings for a while, and then when you go live. So that's part of the communications.
Deputy Chief, if I may assist Councilmember Burns, we talked internally as a staff that we need to develop a robust communication plan, which I think is what you're getting at. So foundational to that are the pieces that Deputy Chief Rice just mentioned, but we need to outline the above and beyond how we're going to engage and interact with the community, and that's something that we'll bring back at a future council meeting if council gives us direction tonight to go ahead and move forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both so much. And then my final sort of like wondering, because this is a lot of information, and thank you for that, but can you describe how data moves between your system and our system after someone's like picture is taken? Because I'm a little confused, because you say you house everything and you take care of everything, right? That's what we're paying for, but then we have all the data. Can you just explain how that's sort of like split?
Go for it.
Absolutely. So the data is housed by Vera Mobility. It's a
So you house everybody's photos and everything?
correct. The law enforcement agency logs into the system. So the hardware, the system roadside captures potential evidence of a violation, which is pictures and a video. That evidence is securely uploaded into our back office. And it is then processed by Vera Mobility depending on the violation criteria that the jurisdiction establishes. And then only the evidence that meets that violation criteria is then put in a separate queue for law enforcement to make their final determination on whether they want to issue a speeding citation or not. Once that approval is received from law enforcement, the next steps follow, which is printing and mailing the citation, providing customer service for the violators, adjudication module for the court that they can use to schedule hearings and provide the judicial process for every citation. But the data is housed by Vera Mobility. The city owns the data. We will develop a data retention schedule. So for every category of image and video that's captured, the city is going to dictate for how long that data is retained. Once the data meets that time frame, it is purged from our system. At the end of the program, any data that's still active within our system is given back to the city. The system is used by over 300 communities in the U.S. It's secure. It passed SOC 2 audits for security and all national standards for security. So, and we have 2 backup facilities for the storage. So we have one main data center for data storage with 2 backup data storage facilities within 1,000 miles apart, all within the United States.
Awesome, thank you. And then, so where is your home base? Is your company based out of Arizona, or is
Correct.
it headquartered
Out of
somewhere?
Mesa, Arizona.
Okay, and then so what are your laws around working with federal agencies?
So
would you follow Colorado laws?
So none of the data is shared with anyone because the data only belongs to the jurisdiction. We don't share it with anyone. So even if we had a FOIA request or a subpoena, we reach out back to the jurisdiction and we inform the jurisdiction that there has been a request. if we're directed to gather that data, we give it back to the jurisdiction, and it's going to be the jurisdiction's decision if they want to disseminate that information or not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this presentation. I especially liked how you said it would provide more support for school zones. That's something that's very important. Also, I think having officers there helps build relationships within our community, which again is very important. And clearly we can see we need this because of the excess speeding. Can you tell me a little bit about the mobile AVIS? Since those are put into neighborhoods, what do they look like?
Well, and I'll let Alex, so there's two. One, you may have seen it recently if you drove up Washington Street in Thornton. It's the white Jeep Cherokee that's parked on the sidewalk. That's one. We're leaning against that one. Alex refers to it as the box. So I don't know if you want to give a more detailed explanation of what the box looks like.
So it literally looks like a metal box that has a 31 by 31 inch metal plate base, and it's about 5 feet tall, and it houses all the equipment inside it. And then it can also be wrapped with whatever advertising you want to have on it for automated enforcement.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, both of you, for the presentation tonight. So yeah, eastbound 112th, that seems pretty problematic, and that is in my ward. I'm curious if there, and maybe, you know, since Director Borders is here, I hate to kind of put you on the spot, but is there, I'm aware that you could kind of implement with a camera, but that the road is just really designed weird. It kind of flows weird. Are there any kind of engineering solutions? And I just kind of thought of this, like any kind of engineering solutions possibly coming down the pike that might help address some of the road situation?
Good to see you. There's nothing specifically planned right now, and I know we talk about traffic calming fairly frequently. A lot of times we're talking about that in terms of residential roads, things like speed humps and narrowed lane width with striping, that sort of thing to calm traffic. Those often don't work on our arterials because the last thing you want is someone driving 45 miles an hour and hitting a speed hump. Makes for a bad day. So there's not currently anything planned, though I will say it's not something I've spent a ton of time evaluating. So
Sure. Okay, cool. I just, since you were here. For DC, how would we kind of spend the revenue?
It has to be for public safety and traffic improvements, and ultimately discussions right with the city manager and finance director Loveland. But that is what it is intended for, is for public safety. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate any more on that, but whether it's traffic calming, if it is used in a manner to continue to reduce poor driving, and sometimes that might ultimately be changing roadways, that falls under what it is allowed to be used for.
Okay. Does that, and maybe this is a question for Jason, I'm sorry, Deputy Director Loveland. Does there need to be a specific kind of carve out, or maybe this is even a question for Attorney Hoffman, does there need to be a specific kind of carve out to use that money for speed things specifically? Because I know my fear would be like the city identifies this, you know, as a potential revenue stream, is like, well, we're not supposed to use it for this, but, you know, here's this kind of off-use case and we'll do that. That's kind of my concern, of kind of us becoming a little bit dependent on that. So I want to make sure that it's going for something that, you know, we don't kind of, it doesn't kind of create a dependency. Does that make sense? Am I making?
Yes. It's not meant for, if you want to say salaries, it's not meant for.
Okay.
Right, this is meant for the utilization for public safety. And like I said, it's not just limited to, right, say, buying another motorcycle for the traffic unit, but it could be roadway design. But if you look at just that section, if we're talking about 104th and 112th, where you essentially go down a lane, right? If you're going westbound on 104th, right, you have that turn lane that kind of creeps up on you and then you have to get over. Could there be down the road improvements, or whether it could just be something as simple as signage, or as you mentioned on 112th. That is the point of this is that the funds are reallocated towards public safety, driver safety, and that. So to essentially drive your point home, that's not what its intended use is not to, you know, let's start paying everybody's salaries and grow in that avenue. That's not its intention, because the intention is to try to stop the driving behavior. And for this, if these numbers continue to go down, that means that it's doing its job and it's doing the right thing. So hence why, you know, we want to give this some time to evaluate it, to see what it looks like after you see the driver behavior start to change.
Okay. Okay, that is all my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, was just having this thought, so thank you so much, Councilmember Nowicki, for bringing this up, because so are these the city net revenue? Because to your own admission, violations decreased by 95% after the first year. So what is the revenue? Is this revenue for 5 years, 1 year? Like, what does this look like, and how does that continue?
Well, that's the reason why I gave you the numbers that are at the lowest. That's the projected long-term, as opposed to.
So this is over 5 years?
That's, yeah, yes.
Okay.
When you look at that's the consistent, right? The numbers, like, you should see the numbers at the 10% level and higher, which is probably where we're going to start. These are the long-term projections. That's why I gave you those, so that, again, we're not thinking that it's going to be, that's manageable long-term. And that's what their data is showing, that will be the long-term, with the amount of volume taking into consideration the decreases over time. That's the number that you're talking about. That's in front of you.
Okay, so for clarity, this spreadsheet, so this net revenue of 31,740 estimate is how much we will make over a 5-year period, not within the first year or et cetera, correct? Or at year 5. This is a culmination total.
So it's a monthly projection. It's a monthly projection. However, the volume assumed it's already reduced by 95%. So that gives you a stable projection, monthly projection over the term of the contract. So those are monthly projections for each one of those locations.
After the 95% reduction?
Correct.
Okay, that is helpful. Thank you, because it was not clear on here.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try not to repeat some of the great questions that have already been asked. Thank you both for being here. In terms of that question about the fees, I know right now a portion of the fees, tickets go to Vail, but that goes through our courts. So this would be completely different, correct? Okay.
Yep.
I figured that, because that goes directly back to helping victims of crimes, for example. So to Councilmember Nowicki's point, I think it's important to know that that's going back into public safety, and that takes me to my next question. I saw that, and you did mention it briefly, that I think Thornton just partnered with you, with your company. That's correct, like 2 months ago. And I did hone in on that communications, that list of services that you provide. Were there like public awareness campaigns around that before those went up? Because to Councilmember Burns' point as well, right, the perceptions around like what was going on with Flock and how we had to make sure we put that out in the community. I think having some kind of public awareness campaign is going to be key for that. And then I have another question, but I'll stop there to let you guys speak on that in terms of, or maybe your experience with Thornton. I don't know if you directly or personally worked with Thornton or you have any information on that. Maybe you don't.
So I don't, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I can tell you what we generally do with every program that starts, and I'm fairly confident that Thornton did the same thing. So our marketing team, we have a pretty extensive marketing team, will partner with your director of communications or anyone from the city and work together on your public awareness campaign. What is the message that you want to send out to your community? Maybe it's statistics on driver behavior change. Maybe you want to make sure that they know where the locations are. So that public awareness campaign would be developed with our input based on local stats, state stats, and nationwide stats, and our experience with that. So we would want to support you through that with all the information that we already have available.
Okay, and that's to City Manager Geyer's point. I think that she jumped in on that as well, that that would be a crucial part in terms of communication that's going out there. But in terms of the technology, because there's all these questions about privacy, this type of technology has been around forever in terms of, I mean, I know things have changed a little bit, but red light, stop lights, which we're not, I remember having that conversation with former deputy chief, and that was a big no-no because of, it causes more accidents. But getting those types of citations in the mail, like that's not new, that type of technology. Before legislation passed, the same technology was available, but it had to be manned. Am I wrong in my thinking? Because I know now there's all these questions of what about my privacy, but like this is like a decade or more that I know that this has kind of been out there. AI has changed and made it more efficient in some ways. If you could speak to that, because I know that's where all these questions about my privacy is coming from, right? And data sharing.
I guess I'm kind of confused as to what what's the
Chief wants to jump in here.
the question on
The technology has been around for a while. It's not.
Perfect guy.
There's our tech person right here.
You're right. This technology's been around. Gosh, when I started as a police officer, and I think when you guys were kids, you know, learning how to drive, you guys were driving down roadways in the big flash, right? But yeah, those had to be, an officer had to be in those vehicles, those speed vans, to go through all that. Today, with the legislation that passed, I think that's why you're seeing so many jurisdictions go to it, because they see the importance, again, the cost of manpower and putting those things out there, and then the AI feature and everything else just has it. And their company has a direct line to our Department of Revenue. They developed that through other cities and their programs, so they get those information. The data is not kept; it's only kept for court and everything else of those that actually violated. So, does that answer your question? Because it has been around for a very long time. People, I think, are used to speed radar enforcement. It's just, hey, this is new for us in our community. Here are some of the technology advances. And again, we'll have a robust communications plan, working with them, working with our new communications director, getting our stuff on our Facebook and everything else out there to educate. So, but I agree with you. I think this technology has been around forever. I don't think there'll be that much pushback. As long as we use, you know, again, really being financially, you know, so they're not saying, oh, you guys are out there just to, you know, raise money. But with all the traffic engineering and everything else, if we use it for traffic safety, I think that's a perfect way to do it. So
Thank
you
you,
asking
Chief.
if an officer has to serve?
No,
Oh,
I know,
okay.
I know the legislation enabled, that's why we can do this, because we had this conversation years ago, and we're like, it wasn't cost effective for us to have those manned vehicles.
Right.
That cost like twice as much at that point in time, plus a person that had to be there. So it was more of, it's still the same technology, where the perception right now is this is new, we're being taken over by AI, and everybody's watching us. So that's why that public awareness campaign is important. And the information that you provided in terms of how the data is not kept is important, and that's all part of that communication, as was mentioned there before. But I just wanted, just for clarity, so people know, and that's part of that awareness, right? This is not, it's kind of the same technology that we've had, just now it's
And
unmanned.
It's
Right.
only capturing
Yeah,
violators.
exactly, yeah.
That's all it's capturing.
And then my actual questions, the signage for those zones, Vera handles everything, but what about the signage in our city? Do you also handle putting up those signage once those areas are determined if we move forward with this? That's also what your company does? Okay. And then in terms of like liability and insurance, if one of these machines breaks down, you also take care of that and replace it, repair it?
For the life of the program.
Okay. And if one of those zones, let's say like Melody, that didn't seem to be like maybe a, one that'd be worth doing, if we do a mobile one, then that you could just move it to another area that may be more effective, correct?
Correct.
After assessment?
If you look at the revenue generation on that, that is something that the chief and I have talked about with the mobile unit moving forward, right? Even if it doesn't cover the $2,500 a month, right, for the mobile unit in the location that we placed it, but it does, that community feels the need for it, and can we offset that if the revenue, so that it's not a net loss is my point. Are we willing to, because of the getting folks to slow down in our internal residential neighborhoods, do we see the benefit of that too, to the community, knowing that this can ultimately be moved around, because it's not about the revenue generation or, generating aspect of it, where we're trying to change the behavior internally. Can we do that? And ultimately, that's something that we're going to have to make a decision with down the road to see if we can manage that. But that is something that we've talked about, especially if those numbers are those numbers. If we're essentially breaking even on the mobile, but it's serving a greater purpose in the community, letting them know that this is out and we're slowing down the traffic on the slower streets, miles per hour on the internal streets. To me, that also has a very big impact inside the community.
Yeah, I read that Boulder, I think, has had a 90% decrease, Fort Collins. And I just talked to a mayor of a neighboring city. They don't have it, and they want this as well. And I guess the term was thrown around that if all of us in the areas, even if we don't communicate with, if we all have those, then it's kind of like a no speed zone, kind of like the Broncos no fly zone. You have a bunch of jurisdictions that are on board with this. So that's it. I just had a couple of questions that I think were answered before too. So I'm good. I won't say any more. Thank you.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a few things to run by. In the Midwest, Illinois, we had speed cameras like 20 plus years ago. And I know people aren't big fans of them. I don't want to get a ticket either, but we know that significantly speeding causes more accidents and really frustration amongst other people commuting, which can lead to other violence, So just to clear up a few things, as I understand it, the ticket in a speed trap, or whatever you want to call it, would be $40. It wouldn't go towards your license points. If it was in a construction zone, maybe the mobile unit would be more like 80.
I believe it's capped at 75.
75. So if you have the mobile one, I know we have these safety sensitive zones, So if you put it on a community center drive for some reason, or Fox Run Parkway or everything, that would automatically double as well, right?
Yeah, but one of the issues in the safety-sensitive zones, this would only issue a warning if it is less than 10 over the limit. And so most of the speed violations in the safety-sensitive zones have not risen to that threshold, at least thus far.
Yeah. And then the bill to put it on the federal highway is 1071. I mean, I'm sure those would be bigger dollar amounts too. So just to clarify that one too, sorry, and I know it's in work, so we don't really know all the facts, but as I understand it, if the city gets the right through 1071 passes, we can put it on the federal highway, but we have to work with CDOT. And at that point, CDOT has more of a say. They collect the money, right? Or would it, do we know?
I believe the current version, it would be municipal, because right now, under existing law, we are prohibited from placing them on state highways. That's part of the original legislation.
Yeah. So it seemingly would be done the same as if it was on our street. And eventually, if you slow down people, I mean, they're not going to want to keep getting tickets, so they're going to slow down. And the last thing I'll say is that I looked this up earlier. It looks like the cities that are currently using speed cameras are Aurora, Boulder, Colorado Springs, Commerce City, Denver, Eaton, Fort Collins, Glenwood Springs, Greeley, Green Mountain Falls, Longmont, Loveland, Sheridan, Thornton, Vale, and Wheat Ridge, just to provide context. Thank you.
Thank you for the research. I have a couple questions. I think I'm following. So what you just said is they get a warning unless they're 10 over. Okay,
That's statutory.
got it. And one of the slides says city must designate speed corridors. And so do the cameras have to be in the speed corridor?
Yes, but, so, we had this discussion, Alex and I earlier. Most municipalities so you're not doing street by street, especially a city of our size. You just, and again, this has to be written in by Corey in the ordinance. You just do the entire city as a speed corridor.
Okay. Because I guess I was looking at the potential location slide had 2, and so I wasn't sure if those were going to be the speed corridors. So that's not what that slide means.
So DC Rice just raised a significant policy question for council, and that is whether you actually designate the corridors or you designate the whole city. That's a significant policy question for you, because we can put what the statute, I think, contemplates is actually designating the corridors so that you are put on more particularized notice of where the cameras are. But you can designate the entire city and move the cameras around.
Okay.
But that is ultimately a question for you all as to whether you want the specificity in the ordinance of identifying particular speed corridors or not, and then they'd be authorized throughout the city.
Okay. So that's a policy question. Thank you. So I'm looking at the traffic analysis. I mean, that just tells us what we know. There's certain areas that people speed in. That was confirmed by most of us here. And I apologize if I missed this. Is there a reason not to go to just mobile and not do fixed cameras at all?
Yes. The fixed are meant to curb traffic accidents and slow people down. If you look at their locations, like those were targeted in our approach. Whether it's Washington, between Washington and 100 or Irma rather, and mainly coming into the city and down by it. So that is a huge piece of it. Also, we believe with the data that if we are placing it, for example, in the neighborhoods, you're not going to, we can ultimately do that. We won't reach the threshold we'll lose money. it will cost the city money.
Because they're just going to get warnings because they won't hit the 10, you think? That's what,
Right, the data shows that right, even from our safety sensitive zone numbers that you look at, now we do on Community Center Drive absolutely have the data backs that. But when you look at the numbers and the other ones from a speeding, we won't come close, no, to doing it. Because again, the ordinance is 10 and over.
Okay.
That isn't adjustable.
okay. So I do have a question specifically about Fox Run Parkway because it was raised before the sensitive, whatever, safety sensitive zones, whatever it's called, primarily does stop signs because there's no place for someone from North Park to Central Park to sit where they're not noticeable. So a camera seems like that would be a perfect spot for a mobile unit or even a permanent camera because they'd race from one to the other and they stop at the stop sign or they don't stop at the stop sign and that's where they get caught. But I mean, I drive it daily. I haven't ever seen a police officer there, and on my ride along, they do stop sign enforcement in that particular zone, but not speeding enforcement unless it's a happenstance. So,
Or this is a different conversation that we were just having last week. I pulled data on all of the safety sensitive zones and other crime data over the last 2 years. And I compared the 2 6-month periods in 24 and 25 to compare to see if we were curbing driver behavior. And on Fox Run Parkway at 10 and over, don't hold me to it because I'm trying to go, I believe southbound averages 1 speeder a day over 10 miles an hour. In northbound, I think it was 9.
so are you using that sign? Can you monitor speed on that sign?
That's where we're getting the data from, yes.
Okay, that does measure data. Okay. That seems, I see them flying by, so I don't know.
And it's not just Fox Run.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only street in those that breaks a threshold where we say that we genuinely have a speeding is community center.
Okay.
Community center, we have a legitimate speeding concern, which is why if you look historically at the amount of summons we write, it's heavy on Community Center Drive.
Okay.
Which leads into a whole bunch of other stuff when we want to start talking about the redevelopment and do we actually change the landscape of the roadway when you're going through this much pedestrian traffic with our largest park and Festival Lawn and on and on and on. That's probably a bigger picture long-term. But the safety sensitive zones, not at 10 over.
Okay, well, I guess that's good news. So I was trying to follow. I was a little confused at the start. So the presentation, you're proposing specific sites to put permanent cameras, and there's 4?
3.
1.
It's only eastbound right now on 112. So it's 2 on 104 east and west at the same location. And then just eastbound 112. And again, we're not saying that there aren't speeders coming westbound. We're not saying that there aren't speeders on 120th or on Irma. We just want to make sure that we can manage the volume from a staff perspective, and we want to work out the kinks and the bugs with, let's start small as opposed to having it, and then we can always build onto the program.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay designating the entire city. I think I'm hearing a lot of residents in my head because every single engagement includes they're speeding on my street and you do nothing about it, right? That's the phrase we get. all the time. And so I think I'm more in favor of the mobile units just because I want flexibility and not having them permanent structures, because I think it can deter behavior for a period of time. And then I think we might be able to make a bigger impact if we're able to move them around. You're not a fan? Chief just stood up.
No, I am. I'm just
No, he
saying.
just stood up, so I'm wondering.
I'm just letting you know that when we move it to what you're talking about, we will not cover the cost. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
We're for the mobile system.
So I think that, yeah, I think that's what I'm excited about, right? So we have these, the systems, one on 104th, that's a mess. And we really want to in that long term. So that's why it's stationary.
Right.
104th and Huron, 104th and Melody been our highest accident locations for decades, right? So if we can reduce the speeds coming into those zones, going in and out, I really want to see those numbers. 112th, again, that's another one. The racing, Patty, when you said that, I put a smile on my face because when I was living over in Fox Run, same thing. You heard them blaring on 104th and you heard them blaring on 112th. So trying to reduce some of that traffic and the sound. But the mobile one is the exciting one. Shannon, down on Melody, right? We know it's not going to pay for itself. We're hoping that these cameras are so successful on 104th, 112th, that we're able to add that mobile unit to make sure that we can move it around the city. So I'm glad to hear that you want to make the whole city that zone so we can do the signage and everything else, because there's a 30-day, once we put it out, there's 30-day warnings that we have to do. And that mobile unit, I think you said monthly that you guys would come out and move it. That's a lot of impact on a lot of streets. Even if we throw it down, I know Corey, but Fox Run and some of those areas, we see what happens, right? In those areas, as long as you know that mobile is probably not going to pay for itself, but it's going to the places where we're getting a lot of traffic complaints. We are going to have to do some, research and traffic assessment to see. We just don't want it out there not generating anything on there. We want to make sure there's an actual speed problem. So, but that mobile is very important, but we want to make sure that we can handle this thing before we bring that in. But like Deputy Chief Rice said, give us 6 months, 9 months. We'll come back and say, hey, I think we can handle this. We're good to go. They'll be already in line, ready to kick that part off. So we just have to figure a lot of this stuff out coming into it. And I think, again, with the education piece for our community and all of that, I think we'll do well. So I'm excited about the program, but I'm really excited about the mobile program. And I know what you're thinking on that. And I agree, but I think in some of those areas, we definitely need some stationary units first.
Okay, so we're looking at 3. I think it's hard not to think of all the streets we're missing. So Washington Street, they fly down that street too. Irma's another one. I think there's a benefit for that. And I feel like if the projection is that the stationary ones are going to generate revenue, maybe we can offset the cost. I think there's also the education piece, and a warning is still a warning, and it's still learning. And we know that education piece is key to changing behavior. It's not just the fine. I don't know, Corey's nodding at me and turned his mic on. What's up?
No, that's the issue, is when the chief refers to an actual speed problem. Part of that depends on what your definition is, because an actual speed problem under the statute has to be 10 or over. And the reason, in order to actually have a fine as opposed to a warning. And the reason for that, I think, is because if you're not talking about cameras, if you have a 10 to 19 over the limit, it's a 4-point offense. If you have 5 to 9, it's a 1. And so most departments don't write tickets for 5 to 9 over because it is such a minor offense. The safety sensitive zones in Northglenn make those minor offenses, there's a deterrent because it's still an expensive ticket, because it's imposed based on the original fine. You can't do that on the camera. So when you're talking about a loss leader, if you will, or having the revenue generating ones supplement the mobile ones, then it's easier to if your definition of a speed problem is 5 to 9, you will know that they're issuing warnings. It may have the deterrent effect, but there's no corresponding revenue.
And I'm actually okay with that because I think we need the education. The other thing to consider, having a little insight into teenage boy drivers, mine is currently safe without a vehicle right now, is they work the system. They figure it out. They're going to go 8 over. They're going to go 9 over. They're going to find the streets that they can rip that hot rod from start to finish. There's no absolute spot to put a cop car. They're doing that all over the city. They're doing it all summer long. They're doing it on all streetways. And that's going to continue to happen. And so I feel like we're targeting not them because they're going to work the system. And then we're still going to hear about the hot rods and the street racing and because they figure out how to work it. They find them, they know where they are, they know where they can tear off without them. And I think that's a problem we're still going to have, and I'm not quite sure what the solution is for that one. And so this whole thing is really confusing to me. I remember when we first had the conversation and we talked about bringing in a vendor and we talked about the cost, and council was very much in favor of doing it. So when I go back to, I go all the way to the next steps. So is this is if you can go one slide back. Ultimately, after a conversation, after this discussion item tonight, we want to have a conversation before an ordinance comes out, yes? Or is this step one and we're going to come back and have more conversation?
There's 2 steps. The first is the contract with Vera Mobility, and the second is actually codifying the ordinance that state law authorizes. And so the timing, if council wants to enter into the contract with Vera Mobility and do this, it's really the timing of the ordinance as opposed to what's in it. And it's really about, do you want to do it immediately and take the risk that the legislature is going to change the rules in the next 6 weeks, or wait roughly a month and implement whatever changes to the rules the legislature includes, including, for example, allowing it on the interstate?
Okay, well, I do think it makes sense to wait just for workload of everyone involved, but also clarity. I think I still want to get some clarity around tonight's presentation, so I'm in favor of waiting.
Can I ask what you'd like clarity for? Maybe I can help on that.
I may need to sit with it a little bit. Yeah, I think I got it. I think it took a lot of questioning to get to the bottom of what we're talking about today. And so, I mean, I think, to be honest, this slide could have been more clear right here, because it could have been really clear with what our actual next steps are, which would have put the legislative action at the top and really been the only next steps. The other pieces, it doesn't sound like it's something that council's working on, because we're the legislative action, right? So determining how many we have, maybe a budget conversation, having a discussion around whether or not we want the mobile camera, and then thinking about where to put them. Looks like that's, I don't know, together with technical planning. I don't know. There's a lot on this. I think back to Corey's part, getting to the point of what we're actually deciding tonight are those 2 things, a contract, yes or no, and a timeline.
Yeah, and what I can do based on the direction from tonight is, regardless of the timing when the ordinance actually comes before you, send you the draft ordinance, because I think, frankly, that will answer a lot of the questions. And I wanted to hear the discussion tonight. Understanding that draft may change if the legislature does anything, but a lot of the high points of what you were discussing tonight are already in the draft, such as data retention, how it's protected, that it's not subject to the Open Records Act, how it actually operates in practice. And so I can send that well in advance if you decide to delay to have first reading at the end of April. you will have that draft ordinance within a week or two. You can look at it. If that generates any questions, when it comes back before you on first reading, we'll be ready to answer all those.
Okay. I think that's helpful. Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts around this. I am just like particularly, and we've talked a lot about like perception tonight. Like a lot of people like feel like there's a lot of speeding and like whatever it feels. And so I just really want to center us back in the current conversations around cameras and surveillance and perception. And so I really need to see a comms plan before I'm going to feel comfortable with any of this, to be perfectly honest. Because I feel like with Flock, we've been kind of backtracking and we're still answering questions, and it's just like, I don't know. And if we're gonna just like keep adding, and now we're gonna add more cameras on, I don't know how people are gonna feel. I mean, like, yes, the technology's been here, but again, like, I need to understand what we're going to say and how we're going to explain that. And then, so in that vein, I am not in favor of naming the entire city blanketed as a zone. I think we need these to be, I think, to show good faith to the community that we are very specific in what we're doing here and very intentional. So I'm not in favor of blanketing the city. And I'm also in favor of waiting, because I would love to see how this because this, I don't know what this is going to look like in a week, in 2 weeks, or whatever at the state capitol. And I don't want to have this discussion again. No offense. But yeah.
And to Councilmember Burns' point, if the entire city is not designated, we would identify the specific locations for the permanently fixed, and then have other language that says you have to have signage 30 days in advance for the mobile. So that would be basically the fallback, is that you'd still have your designated permanent ones in the ordinance. You wouldn't have the temporary ones in the ordinance. You would have a requirement that they be posted before they could be deployed.
So I know we haven't heard from everyone yet, but the question is, if we delay, then we're not approving a contract soon, right? Because we haven't answered some of these other questions as far as how many, or do we do a general contract that says per camera, but we don't say how many cameras?
I think that's a question for DC and Vera, because we can, I think part of what the deputy chief's presentation contemplated, the 3 permanent cameras as the initial deployment. So that's what the contract currently would reflect.
Okay. I need more clarity, I think. I mean, because that would have been nice to have that spelled out. Like, this is what the contract is 3 cameras, this is the total, this is what we want.
We can put as many cameras into the contract as we're not locked in. That's our recommendation.
Right.
Because of the lift. When we get to signing the contract, it can be 1 camera, or it can be 5. We're recommending these because we understand that the community is going to want cameras, and especially the mobile cameras, and in different locations. Our recommendation were these 3 to allow us and to give staff time to see if we can manage it, how we have the staff, and how we work through the problem. That's where we came up with these 3 locations. And again, the thought process behind this was the amount of traffic accidents that these locations funnel into. People get hurt in traffic accidents. I understand all of the noise and the speed racing and all that stuff. This was geared towards stopping traffic accidents and people getting hurt. That was the methodology behind these locations. But as far as the contract, we don't have, until a decision is made on the number, then that will be written into the contract.
Okay, so we don't have that tonight. Like, we're not.
The contract was set for 2 weeks with the ordinance, where we paired the contract up with the ordinance. This was just, are we moving forward?
Okay.
Are we comfortable with this? And obviously, in light of all the legislation, if we're going to push that off, but we're still going to have the same decision to make in 6 weeks. Are we comfortable with the 3 locations? Give staff, 6 to 9 months to assess how those are going, and then we can add cameras should we see fit,
Okay.
primarily the mobile camera.
Is there anything less than a 5-year contract? Is there like a 1-year contract?
Not really. So the jurisdiction doesn't incur any upfront cost for these cameras, specifically for the fixed cameras and the mobile with the back office programming, right? There's a lot that goes into the program. But specifically for fixed cameras, there's significant construction costs to bring these cameras online. There's also back office programming costs. So in order to not pass on that cost as an upfront cost to a jurisdiction, we're looking for that 5-year term so we can depreciate that cost that we're incurring upfront. So that's the logic behind the 5-year term. We do a straight monthly depreciation on the initial investment.
Okay.
And Mayor, if I could, this is
Yeah.
where, at the risk of getting hyper-technical, in Colorado, we can't enter into a multiple fiscal year obligation. So there is actually a non-appropriation clause that we added to make it Colorado compliant. So while she is correct that this is intended to be a 5-year contract, if the city determines not to appropriate for this contract over time, it can terminate on that basis because it has to be able to do that under the Colorado Constitution.
Okay. One last question, and then there's more hands, but I think I keep hearing different things. I hear that it's going to be staff intensive and we don't know if we can handle it. And then I'm hearing it's going to save staff time. Can you help me put those two things together?
We don't know how big a lift it's going to be with the volume of tickets, right? So we believe, and we have the staff to manage that right now. Where I say that it's going to free up staff, as I stated earlier, the staff that are going to be doing it can't be on the road.
Right.
Those are injured staff, and therefore it frees up. If that is a primary location on 104th where you'll see our motor guys all the time. That's where the staff reallocation comes to. Our highest speeders, our highest volume of stuff going into our highest traffic accident, that has been a mission of the traffic team to try to reduce that. Therefore, that allows them to push into school zones and things of that nature. So that's where the reallocation of, yes, staff still have to clear all the summons that are coming in there. And again, these are estimates, and and we're doing the best that we can with the data and the forecasting and how long that's going to take us. And that's why I just really don't want to get out in front of us where we are having to pull resources that are better suited out in the community to just clear tickets on the computer.
Okay. Do these work at night?
24/7.
Okay, I saw that, but I wasn't sure because I know our traffic team, the motorcycle guys, do not do tickets at night, right? Because they're not out there.
No, there's a huge safety piece with that.
So there's a benefit there.
Correct.
Okay.
All
right.
And that's, again, these never stop. So
Yeah.
once we push this button, we have to manage it and to stay up on top of it. And that's where we want to try to, let's see how these cameras generate, let's see how we manage it, and then we can say, yep, we have the data for 6 to 9 months, we can deploy more, we can have more cameras and we can manage it.
Okay. When did Thornton go online?
3 months ago.
Okay. Do they have any input, feedback, recommendations to say, hey, these are things that are going well, these are things that we're struggling with? Have you thought about talking to them at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, I specifically asked about what the white Jeep Cherokee was on the sidewalk, and if that was a version of the mobile. So I was talking with their patrol commander, and again, with our representative that's on CCPP that is clearing tickets down there, they're very busy. And it is working extremely well in the locations that they have it.
Okay, so you mentioned a former, like a retired individual on one of our boards. Is he a paid staff member?
Yes, he's doing it contractually, right? Yeah.
Okay, that was kind of vague too. I was like, what are we talking about? I don't know why he's clearing tickets
he's
over
retired,
there.
so he was just like, yeah,
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if he was volunteering, like a CPAN guy, or if he was.
We've thought about that. The issue becomes if you clear the ticket, you can wind up in court,
Yeah,
right? So we didn't want to do that to our CPAN volunteers.
that's fair. Okay, I think we have more questions. I'm sort of in favor of waiting and circling up later, but we'll see. Councilmember Leidy.
Thank you. I am also in favor of waiting. I just have a few questions. You had mentioned that the price of construction or the construction costs kind of feed into that 5-year contingency situation. If, this is just in my head, if someone was to take their car and destroy one of these cameras or hit one of the mobile things or anything like that, is that then, like, so say I drove into it, is it my like, do I have to pay for it? Is the department paying for it? Are you guys paying for it? What happens there?
Well, several things. If you're at fault and you hit anything with a car, that's gonna, right, that there's insurance claims and things of that nature if you're deemed at fault. So we're kind of entering into from Vera Mobility standpoint, they replace the cameras. They get the cameras back up and running.
Like, no matter what, you guys pay for it. Oh, great.
Oh, did you?
No, you was asked about like if they like reboot or if they fall. I meant like if someone hits it.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try and make this quick. I think this is kind of similar to Councilmember Burns' point. Yeah, I do think the technology, or at least the appearance of cameras on roads, is kind of an antiquated, maybe a little bit. But what is not is kind of the AI component, the cloud storage piece. Kind of taking pictures of people and kind of keeping them somewhere, right? I think that's kind of what the conversations we're now starting to have, around Flock and stuff. So I do think, and I want to kind of, if we are going to proceed forward with a contract, looking at kind of, and this is maybe for kind of city staff, what is kind of the retention schedule for the data? Is there any kind of third-party access restriction? And then having it kind of spell out what Northglenn controls versus kind of what Vera retains. Just as I think as we go forward now in this day and age, we're going to have to start thinking more and more about these things, because ultimately we're giving away our privacy, and I guess in exchange we're getting safety. We've got to decide if that's worth it.
Those terms are in the contract.
Okay, cool.
And there is, in the draft ordinance, there is language about data retention that's required by state law.
Excellent. That is all.
Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I know what they look like now because you said about 3 months ago, Thornton came online. The intersection of 88th Avenue and Washington, there was these new cameras put up, silver pole, silver hood. I was like, so those must be your product? Do you think, maybe you can't answer that, but yeah, okay. It drives me nuts because right there, all my Bluetooth stuff drops out. And when they actually had it turned off, to wire in those new cameras, it didn't happen anymore. And then they turned them back on. So I have my own beef to pick with Thornton. But yeah, if anyone wants to see it, if you just go down Washington and 88th, that intersection has at least 4 setups. Now I know more what the construction, because it is its own individual setup as opposed to like attaching it to existing pole or something.
Okay, so I think the question to council is if we want to make a decision tonight or if you want to wait. I've got a wait by Councilmember Burns.
April 26th or whatever.
So push it down a little bit. What are you thinking?
Wait.
Wait. How are you feeling?
Go, but guess I'm going to get overruled on that.
No, you can say what is your truth?
I would say let's go.
Okay, I'm with waiting.
I think we should wait until we know what legislation is going to go through, but I'm on board with it. I think we just need to know that first.
I'm going to side with Councilmember Roper and say I'm good to proceed forward.
Why not make it 3? Yeah, let's go. Why not?
All right, Councilmember Goff, I didn't forget you. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. It doesn't make sense to me to come up with something now and then have to change it. So I'm for waiting as well.
Okay. Councilmember Kondo.
I'm going to change mine to go.
1, 2, 3. Okay, we're still 5, I think. 5 for waiting. I think we're waiting for legislation. I'm going to need to talk to staff and get more clarification on this whole thing. But I'll do that and in the meantime. So.
And then at this point, I'll put together drafts that have both statewide location, citywide location or designated corridors, and then I'll show you the difference, and council can decide how best to move forward.
Okay. I do support Councilmember Burns' request for some communication. I don't know if that's examples, templates, a comms plan.
It is bringing back a full comms plan. Again, we talked about it internally at the staff level, but it wasn't included in tonight's presentation. So that is an item that would be forthcoming when we bring back the other information. So the contract, the draft contract, as well as the ordinance that City Attorney Hoffman talked about.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So one more. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the only thing to push pause on is if the legislation even changes anything that affect it. Do we want to make a decision on the number of cameras? Because that isn't legislative based. That's all. The only thing that legislation might do is put constraints on either when we can do it or when we're not. It has nothing to do with the actual implementation of the cameras. So that can be a decision, should you choose to. I'm just saying that doesn't need to be pushed off. We just don't know what the state legislature is going to do with the bills that are up right now. But that doesn't impact if you choose to designate it, those 2 roads as the speed corridor and those cameras. That has nothing to do with the state legislature. So that we can make those decisions on.
Okay. I mean, council can weigh in. I personally need to clear up a few things. I'm sure council's going to be on board and overrule me anyway. I just want to get clarity around it on whether or not I want to move forward in this way. But I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about how many cameras you want?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with the 3 that you propose, and then having kind of the option at some point for the mobile one.
Yeah.
Same here. I've seen so many crashes on 104th. It's our own little crash corridor. And having been hit by somebody going over 18 miles an hour changes the way you think about stuff. So I'm on board with the 3 and then potential for more, because I do think there's other areas that could benefit from the mobile ones for sure. Mm-hmm. But yes to those 3.
You want to weigh in?
Yeah, I also agree with the 3. I think that, I want to make sure that you guys feel like you can handle it. And then who knows, if you guys can keep going, that would be awesome. I agree.
3.
The 3 are based in facts, so I'm fine with that.
I would really love to see a contract. what it looks like and like cost and actual revenue. And like, you know, we have this projected, I just was not a fan of this hypothetical spreadsheet, to be perfectly honest. I'm fine with the locations and like the idea of 3. This doesn't feel, there's just no money here. Like what, like, I don't know. There's no dollar signs like attached except for this subscription service. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to see more fiscal details about this. And I would love to also see in like the next iteration of this, like the amount of speeding in comparison to crashes and like what that looks like, and then what a 95% reduction would look like in the amount of crashes we're expected to experience. Just the core, like actual causation. I think that would be helpful to me to like put numbers on this and like how many people, you know, we're going to save like bodily injury or like whatever that is. But I'm fine with the idea of this. It just does not feel tangible to me for some reason after this presentation. This feels like theory. Thank you.
Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the locations make sense. I think they're, those are major streets that probably most people, well, I don't know what the data is, but a lot of people driving on it are not even Northglenn residents and, maybe don't have as much care for the area they're driving through or not. But I'm kind of with Councilmember Burns. I feel like, this does sound like a good plan overall, but, just a little bit more clarity on like maybe the permanent sites anyway would be helpful. And then again, we don't know for sure what the state legislature is going to be doing. So I'm okay with waiting on any other major decisions.
Okay, sounds like 3.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have a guest that stuck it out. Do you want to join us for public invited to be heard? This is an opportunity for public comment on any item that you heard tonight. You get 3 minutes.
Rebecca Robinson Udis, Ward 2. First takeaway, I want to say thank you, Mayor, for level setting with the community with the behind the scenes work that you guys have done the past 2 years. I know there's a lot to go into it that we don't necessarily see. I would have liked to, in the past 2 years, heard more comments from you guys regarding the distinction between sexual predators and regular mental health victims. But still, thank you for level setting with the community and who's ever online listening. And then I would also like to say thank you to Deputy Rice for the presentation. I've lived in Northglenn for nearly 25 years, and I know that speeding is a huge deal everywhere. But when I'm driving, even to go to Cincinnati's or the European market, there's always some crazy speeder that like comes up on my rear end, and it's scary sometimes driving around the city with the speeding problem. So, and I get the concerns with having your picture taken and the whole debate, security versus privacy. That really is a good takeaway for all of us to think about. But with all the craziness that I've seen just driving around the city, I really want to see something like this. I think it would be beneficial. And anytime I come back from these events or these meetings, I know that the commentary I get from neighbors or friends is like, hey, how come the police aren't over on the speed when they're like speeding? So it is a big deal. And I think that this program, I would like to see it be implemented in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.